Howdy, folks. Welcome to another informal and casual night on the channel where we discuss things other than Star Trek. Just imagine.
What? There's other things to talk about on the internet?
Apparently, what's the big story this week? I don't think much happened except Batgirl got bat canned.
Oh no. It's actually a
Apparently, it was
sad
so
deal.
bad. Yeah, they worked so hard on that movie and they thought it was going to be good. And the new management at Warner Brothers are really laying down the axe for
Yeah.
Zaslav, whatever his name is.
Yeah, the I think a big problem was that he is from Discovery. He's from like, oh yeah, we make these really cheap reality TV shows like 90 Day Fiance. And we get like all these subscribers on Discovery. Sorry, my dog is going to be
Oh,
a
that's okay.
jerk. He's disappointed that Batgirl is canceled. He was really looking forward to it, but I mean, yeah, so this guy takes over. He's used to like, yeah, we spend barely any money and still get subscribers on our streaming platform. And he's like, why the hell would you make a movie to put on HBO Max? You're not going to charge people for this. You're not going to put it in theaters. You're not going to put it on video. You're just going to put this on HBO Max. Like, you think people are going to subscribe to watch this? Like, no, let's just like cancel the whole thing, save some money on the post production, and get like the tax write off. But I've never seen anything like that before. Just like a whole movie. I mean, I can think of a couple examples. There's like a Fantastic Four movie in
Oh,
like
the Roger Core.
1991, the Roger
Yeah.
Corman,
No, well, it was
but
1994, wasn't it?
yeah, somewhere around there. But that was never released for some legal reasons. But yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird to
This
do this.
picture, I just discovered this. Mike Kalinowski tweeted, one of the directors of Batgirl released this image of Leslie Grace and Michael Keaton suited up. This is our first official look at Keaton in the suit. Damn it. I have a feeling we are going to get more of these drops, quote unquote, from the cast and crew as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's borrowing a page from Zack Snyder's playbook. I don't know if they're going to be able to start a release the Batgirl movement, especially being that the movie was never finished. So there's
Wait,
still,
wait, the
it's not
back.
like it could leak because it's like it's never been edited. So like there's not a final product to leak out, right?
I was under the impression that it was far into post production. Like they've done reshoots and a
No,
good
they
portion of it was done. And
they still
they
had some work
and the
to do.
executives apparently didn't. Yeah, there's some work, but they could have released it. It's just I think it's like from the way I understand it, it would never make its money back. It would be a loss, and you might as well. They're cutting their losses.
Right.
Do you believe in this thing that they watched it and it was just that bad, like it was irredeemable, so to speak?
I've seen so many terrible movies get released. I don't think that's the case. I think it's like you said. It's because like it's going on HBO Max, so they're not going to be charging money for it. So they're like, oh, okay, so do we put it on the streaming platform that already makes X amount of dollars, has X amount of subscribers, or do we take the tax write off? And they chose the tax write off. But yeah, it's I mean, I understand what they were thinking, but it still seems nuts. It's a pretty rare, unprecedented move.
This story may not seem related at first, but it is. I was watching the older episodes of Beavis and Butthead, and they go to
Yeah.
some guy's house, and there's some crappy Power Rangers type show on TV, and Butthead's like, "This sucks," and Beavis is like, "Yeah, yeah, it's a wonder how some things get made," and that's what people say when they like. I was listening to the John Campea show, and they brought up Morbius. Well, fans say like, how does stuff like Morbius get made and released? Where are the executives putting like the kibosh on that kind of thing and saying like, this is not good enough, we can't, this will do more damage than good? Do you think that's their approach now? There's like anything remotely embarrassing, or
I
we
don't
have a
think the
standard now, we have a
embarrassment.
new plan. Apparently they have a new plan, 10-year plan for the
Sure, and
DC universe and Superman's the center of that apparently.
I believe that they have a. I mean, I've heard that before. Like every like 3 or 4 years, Warner Brothers says like we have like a new plan. We're gonna rival the MCU with our new plan, and then it never works. Maybe this time it will, but no, I don't think the movie was just like so bad. They're like, oh, we can never release this terrible movie. They have a new guy in charge who he doesn't. Like he's explained it. He's like, I don't believe in making high budget content for this streaming service for HBO Max. We're never gonna make a made for HBO Max a movie again. Like I don't like that. I think it's a waste of money. I don't think you get subscribers. I think you just spend millions of dollars making a movie and then it has like no major subscriber boost. So we're done with that.
This is a quote from Zaslav. We're not going to launch a movie to make a quarter, and we're not going to put a movie out unless we believe in it. So there you go. And apparently, if The Flash is still going to go ahead, there's no plans on stopping that.
They haven't.
And Ezra Miller's reputation is just getting worse as it goes.
Yeah, they haven't said much about Flash, so I think. I mean, yeah, it's still officially on the books for June or whenever, but yeah, I don't know. I think it might end up things being reshot or something like that. But I think that their plan now is like they don't want to go forward with the Michael Keaton taking over as Batman in their shared universe. Because that was the plan, right? Michael Keaton would be introduced in Flashpoint, and then or Flash. They're calling it. It's based on the Flashpoint comics, but Michael Keaton Batman would show up in there, and then he would show up on Batgirl, and he would show up in Aquaman too, and he would just be like the Batman in the DCEU going forward. But I guess they got Ben Affleck back after all. So
this I'm looking at an article from the AV Club titled "Warner Brothers CEO tries to explain why the Flash is great, but Batgirl had to die," and it seems to get to the point at the very bottom when it concludes, of course, it does seem a little coincidental that the movies that David Zaslav doesn't, quote, believe in just happen to be the same films lined up by his immediate predecessor, Jason Kilar, as part of the company's bold movies to direct streaming plan, which I don't think the new management agreed with at all, of course. In contrast, Zaslav totally, for sure, no foolin', believes the upcoming theatrical The Flash film, also co-starring Keaton, despite the fact that star Ezra Miller has taken the unorthodox step of issuing most of the film's recent press missives in the form of lurid police reports and legal filings. Zaslav assured all present that he was, quote, excited for the film before becoming like the 1,000th consecutive Warner Brothers media exec to promise that the company is finally going to figure out how to effectively rip off the Marvel formula so that they can also milk several $1 billion out of their own superhero brands. I thought that was a really well-worded paragraph there.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Joe Quesada, comic book dude, he said this a long time ago, but yeah, it's crazy. He was talking about DC Comics at the time when they weren't doing too well. They have like Batman and Superman. They have like the biggest dick, and like they don't know how to, like they can't get it up. Like they still can't fuck. So
they're the top two superheroes of all time.
Yeah, they're like my
Western
favorite
culture.
They're like my favorite fictional characters ever, like, so yeah, it's really really embarrassing.
The Superman symbol is the most recognized pop culture thing in the entire world, and it's like it has boggled my mind the direction they've gone in. I've kind of just went along with the ride. Like, you're a fan of Birds of Prey, right?
The
Harley Quinn
the movie? Yeah, I like that.
I don't like it. I like the last 20 minutes or so, but it's movies like that where I'm like, I'll go along with it. I'm not gonna like hate on it or anything, but I'm waiting for like the good stuff. I thought Aquaman was pretty good. I missed that.
Yeah,
I missed out on that in theaters, and looking forward to the sequel. Shazam was good, but it was like I just never wanted to watch it again.
I like Shazam. Yeah, I like all of those that you're naming. Those are like my favorite DC movies of the last decade.
But it's like Ben Affleck's Batman, they messed up with that. That didn't really go anywhere. He didn't get a solo movie. He didn't go on to like be the most interesting thing that he did last off was he showed up in that director's Snyder Cut thing and said the F word Joker. It's like, okay, cool. They filmed that in the backyard, by the way.
Yeah, I saw the. I've never seen the Snyder cut, but I saw that clip. I was kind of shocked to be like, well, I know it was like a dream sequence, but still, was like, oh, okay. So Batman and Joker have a conversation about giving each other reach arounds or something. Like, well, that's an actual movie. Okay.
But like, what are they going to do with Superman? Henry Cavill's not going to come back. I don't think. I don't know.
I don't think they want him back. Just Man of Steel underperformed, BVS underperformed, and Justice League 2017 most definitely underperformed. I like just from a studio executive, like even if you love Henry Cavill as Superman, as a studio executive, you look at that and be like, yeah, we cannot use him as Super. He can cameo as Superman, but we'll never build a movie around him as Superman again.
I think it's a smart move for them to build something around Superman.
I do too. It's crazy. I hate to say this because I don't want anyone to like, lose their job. I don't want TV shows to get canceled, even shows that I'll never watch. I'm glad, people get to work on those. But honestly, the best thing they could do is total fucking reboot across the board. TV, movies, just start everything over from scratch. And
this is where the Flash dilemma comes in, because
you need that movie to clean the slate.
It's one of the reasons I think, you know what? The movie's so far away, and I don't know about like this Ezra Miller stuff. I don't know. Like, is he gonna come to his senses and be like, do a public apology tour? It would have to be something like that. But even then, people would be like, dude, you're a groomer and a creep, and we know about you now, and you have a reputation, right. And he needs help. Like, dude,
yeah.
Fucking
could he like go to rehab?
He needs to be in a hospital.
But right, like is his career salvageable, or like is this movie like if he went into rehab and like issued like some public apology, it was like I'm cleaning up, I'm getting help, like would they be able to market this movie? Like these are the conversations they're having in Burbank behind closed doors.
And here's the thing. I think the movie will definitely come out. I don't think it will be Ezra Miller. I think they're going to actually go through the trouble and the expense of reshooting it with another actor. Now, here's the problem with that. The money. And people say, well, then the movie would have just cost... Just think about by the time that came out. Let's like Top Gun Maverick. They held that from the audiences for 2 years. And they're like, oh, it's coming out no, not this year. Oh, this year? No, not this year. Mm-hmm. So when it finally came and it was actually a fucking kick-ass movie, it's still making money. People are still seeing it now. We're in August. And people are still going to see this fucking movie. The Flash, I think, the controversy around it, and if they replaced him, do you think it would make more money if they say, let's do Grant Gustin. Let's have him, because his show is ending. We can have a different version of him that doesn't even connect with the show, and just say like he is another universe's version of the Flash, and just do it that way. Yeah,
I mean that's possible. I don't know if they would go to Grant Gustin because they probably think of him as more like a TV actor. They might want someone who's more of a proven commodity in movies, but that would be an option. And if they're wanting to save money, because it's going to be expensive to reshoot 80% of your movie or whatever. Or green screen him in like Tig Notaro in the zombie movie. I heard you mention that before, and I think you're onto something with that. But use Grant Gustin would be a cheap get for a big major Hollywood motion picture. He's never starred. He's never been the lead in a movie, so he might be a good option.
Come out and say we're replacing Ezra Miller in the movie, and it wasn't Grant Gustin, you would get a whole bunch of people like, whoa, it would make total sense. What are you doing? Like, they'd throw their arms up, but maybe the actor wouldn't.
I mean, you also don't want to confuse people into thinking like it's like that same version of the
show.
Yeah, so it might make more sense to get like a different. You know what? This is
and Ezra Miller did show up in the Flash TV series as
I think they shot something with Grant Gustin for the movie, like to return the favor.
Too,
but regardless of Ezra Miller as a person, And I'm sorry, like if I used the wrong pronoun earlier, but nothing without like going into like Ezra Miller being like a bad
Oh, I,
person.
I, I apologize.
I
I probably did. Yeah, I forget. I mean, I have been like know for a while, and I just probably forgot. Yeah.
but I never liked them as the Flash. I never liked them as Barry Allen. I so I'm kind of very much in favor of recasting anyways because I always thought their portrayal of that character was not very good.
Speaking of the pronoun thing, did you see the video where he gets arrested
Yeah.
and the guy calls him sir, and he goes, "I'm not a sir," and I'm thinking, how the fuck is the cop like? People have to. It has to take a while to sink into the ether of like public consciousness. Not everybody's just gonna know right away, type of thing, right?
Right.
Uh, Elliot Page, when
Cast
when he
Elliot Page as Barry Allen.
yeah, that's what people were saying that too. But when he transitioned, they actually incorporated it into the show, and I did watch the first episode of the third season just to like see, but I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
back and watch it from the beginning. And the way they deal with it is so clever. It's just like, huh, okay, and that's it. Like it's not even you know what I mean, the way they deal with it. But
Right.
yeah, you could have Elliot Page. You could have, I can't think of any actor, like too many actors who could play the Flash besides Ezra Miller. But just imagine if the film did release next year with fucking him in it, and it made so much. It made it made a lot of money. That would be so weird.
I
It
don't
would
know
be
if
like
it.
a Michael Jackson movie. I don't know. I'm not comparing him to that, but he is that does have that creep factor now. I got to be honest, man. Like I think of I'm sorry, they have that creep factor now where I don't think by next year people would have forgotten. People would only know more, or they would be more aware of it.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'd be box office poison, but I think recasting would be the smart way to go. I mean, I to be honest, like I would be less interested in seeing the movie if Ezra Miller is still in it because I don't really want to see them.
And they continue to make choices that are weird. Like he's
Yeah.
going around. The latest I heard is he's got a gun, or they have a gun, and they have a bulletproof vest. And I understand somebody like Ezra being threatened and stuff. They've spoken out about the Ku Klux Klan, had some words. So Ezra's kind of like paranoid about that, we hear. But when it comes down to it, you just want somebody to get help because they're a public figure, and you've seen them actually like perform well in their craft, and it's kind of it's a real shame.
Yeah, you
Sad.
know, and
It makes me sad. I want to
I
cry.
I'd like them to get help. I'd like them to stop being a menace to society. I'd like them to you know get in
But
a better spot for their own life and their own self interest. But
do you think they'll ever have a career? Like, do you think you could ever see them in a role and not think that about them?
I
Like
mean,
that
who
they're
knows? The future is
that they're an immoral person or whatever you want to think.
yeah,
I know we all seem like we're on our high horses, but some shit's just fucking weird, man.
right. Like like if there's like underage kids involved, like that's a really hard one to come back from.
Yeah, really.
I don't know if I want to see them come back from that. Like people should go to prison for some things, and that's one of them. Not marijuana possession in Russia. You shouldn't go to prison for that, but you should definitely go if you know you're doing things you're not supposed to do with underage people. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's just another reason why they just need to do a just a total fucking reboot of everything. Give
Clean
us a
house.
yeah, give us. You know what? You can
But
keep your
Black Adam's
Batman.
coming though, and it's like that's a big thing that's connected to the DCU. The DCEU will also continue on with like what's the show with John
Peacemaker.
Cena? Peacemaker. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to see like those shows get canceled. You know, if they have plans for like a Black Adam sequel, you know, I don't want to like cancel this stuff, but just if we're talking about like what would make money for Warner Brothers and what would actually like salvage the brand, I think you would just need like a total like reboot across the board. I think the one thing you probably could keep would be that new Batman movie, but I don't know, like that world was so like gritty and grounded and realistic. Like, could you imagine seeing like Green Lantern or Martian Manhunter flying around and that Gotham City? I don't know if they could use it as a
That's an interesting
springboard.
idea. That it's almost like a Man of Steel was just about Superman, and then
Hmm.
everyone else kind of joined in the universe. Batman was really there, like Bruce Wayne was there at the time and everything. So
Yeah.
it's like would retroactively they could say in the Batman Matt Reeves world that a Superman could exist. And it's like I don't know. I mean, it is grounded, but it's not 100% real. Like none of it is 100% realistic. So
Yeah.
you could imagine more. It depends on how you deal with those concepts. Because the way they kind of end it, like you look at the Superman TV show, there's the physics are always off with Superman. Like they've never gotten like the real physics of it right, as far as I'm concerned. Like the force of the wind and stuff like that. They always use wind machines now, but like um remember the last Matrix movie when they fight in the rain
Hmm.
and how their power reverberates and that kind of thing. That seemed more of like how real superheroes would damage their surroundings, which they did in Man of Steel. It was just you couldn't fucking see anything clearly. It was just a mess.
Well, Man of Steel is probably the greatest Superman movie ever made.
Do you
Easily.
believe that for sure?
No, I don't believe that at all. Actually,
Oh god,
that's
it's a
one of
good.
the
It's
four.
a
That's
good
one of the
Alien
four
First
movies that.
Contact
Mm.
movie.
That's one of the four movies that broke me in 2013.
What were the other ones?
I believe it was Iron Man 3 came out that same year.
I hated that movie when I first
That
saw it.
was
Uh,
2013. Yeah.
I hated 2 and 3
uh,
actually.
it ended with Pacific Rim. That was the fourth movie. And then one of the Star Trek movies. I think it was
Into
Into
Darkness.
Into
Darkness.
Darkness.
Yeah.
So it was those four movies in a row. And I was just like, I'm done, man. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going back to my indie movies.
I
Oh,
want to
my
switch the
shirt's on
subject
backwards.
to the Predator franchise because we were talking about predators. We were talking about a particular predator, and now we're going to talk about a different kind of predator.
Yeah, I want to watch this movie Prey. You've sold me on it.
I've heard it's good.
I put mild spoilers because the setup. I want to talk about the setup. What happens after the setup? I'll just not talk about. But it's set in the 1770s,
Okay.
and it follows a Comanche tribe in particular, like the brother and sister, and it's usually the humans are like in the movie are just the young people, and what happens to humans in a predator movie, and needless to say, but it's about this girl discovering something's amiss out there. There's a creature. It's not a bear. People are like it's a bear. She's like, how is it a bear? It's on its hind legs. Like it's got a bear-like kind of footprint. So she basically discovers this thing is out there. But part of the main setup of the movie is she wants to prove that she's a good hunter. She wants to prove she's as good as the men, and they will make sexist jokes like about why are you coming on? We don't need a cook or whatever. And her brother has to kind of stick up for her and say, she's a good tracker and she's fucking wicked with a hatchet. They actually show her and how skilled she is. They take time. That's the beauty about the movie. They actually take time to set up the characters. Very little dialogue, and there actually is a version of this on Disney Plus where you can listen with the Comanche dubbed over.
That's
Because in
cool.
the movie, the actors themselves are speaking English, but you're supposed to just suspend belief and know that they're actually just speaking Comanche because
Right.
they come upon some French people. This is where the mild spoiler part. And a guy says, "I speak Comanche," and starts speaking English. And it's like, oh, okay. So if you watch the dubbed version, every English speaking part is dubbed over. Dan Murrell, a reviewer on YouTube, led me to believe that it was actually they shot English and then they shot the actors speaking Comanche. But that's not the case. It's just dubbed over, I think, with like fluently speaking people who can speak that language fluently. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting aspect of it. Technically, it would have been more realistic, like to do it like the kind of, I don't know, the Apocalypto way or the Passion of the Christ type of way, where it's like, whatever. At least the effort's there, right? Like it's a good thing to know. And damn, it's like besides some shitty, really god awful, embarrassing, like, oh, I wish they had the money to fix that CGI with some animals. Because you do see a number of animals in the movie for various reasons. But one of them is just, in particular, is just, oh no, God.
Yeah.
No.
CGI animals suck. And everyone's CGI is getting pretty terrible these days.
The best CGI bear I ever saw was in The Revenant. That looked as good as a CGI bear is going to look. Like, that looked fucking good and real. But, yeah, it's funny how it's such a good movie that it does take you out of it, but you're like, well, I'm glad this is a good movie. You know what I mean? Like, because if it was bad, you'd be like, oh, this sucked, and the CG was shit, too. But no, my God, this Predator in the 1700s. And I won't say much, but it seems like it's like the first time any Predator's been on Earth. It's just, they take time to show you like what the Predator is observing. It seems like you maybe not have been here before. You don't know much about it.
Yeah, then I think in Predator 2, doesn't he get a gun that says like 15 something or something
17. Anyway, I won't say anything. The gun.
Or does it actually say the year that the movie?
It's funny you bring up the gun. I'll just say that.
So they connect it.
Okay, I'll spoil it directly, but that's not to do with anything with the story. I mean, a gun is a gun.
He takes
is in the
the gun from a French dude, I bet, in the movie. And they have it on their ship.
It's not what you think. It's not what you think.
Oh, okay.
But
in Alien versus Predator, it shows Predators like teaching the Egyptians how to build pyramids and shit in the ancient days.
That's right.
I remember that. and all these CGI aliens are like climbing the thing, and the Predator's like, rah, rah. That's so fucking stupid.
I'll put it over there.
I wouldn't care if they totally disregarded that canon. Okay, they don't say it. It's not said explicitly. You know what I mean? It's not. But you get the sense that this might be a new one for this particular. At least this guy. At least this one particular Predator. But man, it does have good callbacks to the very original that aren't corny. Like you recognize them, but they're not cringy at all.
I love the original. The original is a great action movie.
Oh yeah.
I'll just say one part in the come on, I'm right here, do it, come on. There's a callback like that where somebody's kind of doing that, and I was like, it's subtle, but I know what you're referencing. There's another one like if it bleeds, it dies or something like that.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Jesse Ventura said that.
You know what's a fun watch is to do Commando and Predator in the same night. Like watch them back to back.
Oh my God.
They go together. Like you could watch Predator first.
Some steam Bennett or something like that. He fucking impales him with a pipe.
Yeah, you can watch Predator first and then watch Commando and just pretend it's the same character. And like, okay, after he fought the Predator, he went and retired to take care of his daughter. And then now he's in Commando.
Predator's basically a perfect action horror movie.
Yeah, it really is.
No time wasted.
Neither one of you saw the Shane Black Predator from 2018, right?
No.
I couldn't get. I stopped 20 minutes was left, and I was like, I might go back sometime.
Wow.
I know,
because I was just fucking done with the movie. I was done with that movie.
Yeah.
It is so fucking obnoxiously bad, and I'll tell you why. The movie has these great gory action parts that are actually pretty fucking wicked cool. But what happens is, in between everything, you have not only uninteresting characters, but annoying as fuck characters who are like me last week on the live when I was like, tripping saying the F word every 2 seconds because I listened back. I'm like, F this and F that. Fuck, 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 fuck. This is what people do in the Shane Black part, and the dialogue is like a 12-year-old on like 4 cans of pop or something, some cotton candy, is on a sugar rush, just like like that kind of like, this is funny.
Isn't he good at dialogue though? Like, isn't that like his thing? Like, he was like a
I
dialogue dude.
I don't know, man. I know his
That's what
reputation,
people
but
want to tell me
god
all the
damn,
time. But I don't
like
believe
even not Jordan Peele, Michael Key. Michael Key? Is that his name?
Keegan, isn't it like Keegan
Michael
something?
Keegan.
Yeah.
Is it? I fuck it. I can't remember the.
Yeah, but like
Key
Key and
Peele.
Pill, but not Pill, just Key.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in it.
He's in it, and he's not funny like he is every other thing he's in. And Boyd Holbrook was pretty good. Fucking sucks. Even Jacob Tremblay was a good actor, but like the kid's not interesting. The Olivia Munn, I fucking love Olivia Munn. I'm like, wow, I don't like her now. Like, you know, it's one of these things that kind of you feel bad for the actors because you see that they're trying, but it's like this movie's a fucking mess. On a technical level, it's very well done. It's actually has more technical prowess than this Prey movie. Because Prey, you can see the budget. It really is at its best when it's not using a lot of trickery, like when it shows kind of things in camera, which you can't do a lot of. I mean, the fucking Predator is going around with the invisibility shield, and you know, but even the parts with just the people, the humans, and there's interactions between Comanches and for some French people. So that's a part of the movie that keeps it like going. But man, when that Predator shows up, and they do this kind of violence in Prey that is not gratuitous. Like there's some parts where people who you like are getting killed in brutal ways, but the director will have the sense not to really linger on it or show it that much. And they do these beautiful fucking wide shots. Like you see this wide shot of some grand fucking like beautiful landscape or grass or anything like that. Just all beautiful. Like every shot in this movie is they pick the right time of day, and the clouds always look pretty, but then you see like in the middle of the frame like this bloody fucking carnage, but it's very small in the frame, you know what I mean? It's not in your face. But some parts are deliciously gratuitous, but just for a second, you know what I mean? It's not it's gore and violence done in a quite a tasteful way, if that can be done.
Yeah, I've said for a long time, like, I never need another Predator movie, but this one does it sounds interesting and different enough that I'm willing to give it a try. You know, it's funny, but like,
Come on, do it, watch it, come on.
Predator, Alien, and Terminator, they just like keep making more and more, and I'm like, I don't really need like that. Like, I don't need like there were 2 great Terminator movies.
I'll be back again and again and again
Yeah,
and again.
there were 2 great Alien movies.
No, and you know Schwarzenegger's still going to be totally down for selling his likeness as a hologram, so that they can just keep putting him in movies forever.
I will always be the Terminator.
Yeah, I'm sure like 20 years after we're all dead, they'll still be like making Terminator movies of him as like the T-800 running around. Like, even in like 100 years, that'll still be a thing.
You get some deep fake voice stuff going on, mimic his voice.
I want to talk about real quick. There's 2 new Beavis and Butthead episodes out on Paramount Plus, and you know, great reviews. It's classic Beavis and Butthead, no more, no less than what you've ever gotten from them. So don't expect anything innovative. It's just a really clear picture this time. But what they're commenting on now is not only music videos. It's fucking like TikTok and right, all that's fine. But guess what? There's an actual part I couldn't watch. I had to skip over. I was like, oh, they're making fun of this thing. The thing that they're making fun of is so annoying that I had to skip over it. So I haven't watched it. It's ASMR. ASMR. Some people would consider the sound of a barking dog relaxing. Some people wouldn't. But
he
I don't mind. I like those.
he wanted to share his opinion on
He's
ASMR.
like, fuck ASMR. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Enough with the potty mouth. But yeah, I like it when it's unintentional. When it's somebody's doing it and they're not really trying. Like if somebody just has a naturally. Michael Caine has a video on YouTube. You can get it on YouTube. But I first saw it on TV like a long time ago on Bravo or something. And I found it on YouTube, like, the shit you find on YouTube that you saw on TV that you never thought you'd see again.
Yeah.
Or some movie or something, and you're like, oh my God, I remember this thing.
Right. I
He's
found
teaching-
something like that the other day, actually.
He's teaching an acting class. And acting on, acting on camera in
Is
particular.
this the don't blink one?
The don't blink. It's like,
I just stare and I don't blink. Like
yeah.
you showed that to me one time.
It's like, if you got blonde eyelashes like me, you might as well not have them at all. Because they don't show up on the camera. He's like saying all this stuff. And it's like, God, this is very pleasant. It's oddly pleasant to listen to. But anyway, the Beavis and Butthead comments on one of the most annoying, most popular. I don't know her name. I just know her face and her voice. And as soon as I see her face or hear her voice, I have to it drives me crazy. She one of these people who do this thing where they they lightly tap on like some crayons or something. I don't fucking know what they're doing. I stumbled on one that made me fucking sick. When I first started, I'm sorry, I'm cursing too much, but I stumbled on one that made me sick when I first started research, because some of it I liked. I'm wanted to find the little gems that are nice. But this one girl, it was just her eating spaghetti or noodles or something. And she was eating a bunch, an obscene amount at a time. And it was the slurpiest. There's another one I stumbled upon where a woman's just drawing and chewing gum, probably a whole pack of gum. Very it's, and I'm like, oh my God, people, it drives me nuts that people would listen to it. I know it's such a stupid thing to be annoyed by, but for some reason, some of it, there's a scene in Battle of the Sexes with Emma Stone and Steve Carell. Is this Steve Carell? Yeah. And she's getting a haircut. And she's meeting her soon-to-be girlfriend, Marilyn. And that particular scene with the score is called, the musical piece is called Lavender Oil. And combined with this very dreamy music and the haircut scene and the sound of the two women's voices, I literally can just put that on and fucking pass out. I'm not even. They have a video where you can loop it. I'm like, there you go. If I have trouble sleeping one night,
Maybe you have I think I have this misophonia.
yes, I've heard it. Yes, a lot of more people have it than you would believe. My sister can't stand people chewing,
people's loud eaters.
whistling.
I can't. It's just so gross to me. I cannot stand it.
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't have any of that. I've never experienced ASMR, but I also I don't find a lot of sounds annoying like other people. I was just talking to someone about this earlier, but Antonia will always stop the microwave with a few seconds on it so it doesn't beep.
Yeah.
That's never
Go
bothered
beep,
me.
Beep, beep.
Like,
I don't
I've
like that
noticed
either.
how
I
many
don't like it either.
How
Yeah.
many shows now have a character eating while they're talking? So you
Yeah,
hear
that
them
never bothers me.
yeah, John, and you're like, oh my God, why? What is this adding to the story? It's just gross. It's not meant to be gross right now.
Or another thing is I used to drive this truck that was you had to actually roll the. You remember in cars and you had to roll the windows up. You didn't have the electric buttons to roll them up. This window, it would never stay all the way up. It would always slip down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so you'd always hear the wind coming through it, and I never noticed it. But then if someone was riding in the truck with me, they'd be like, "Jesus Christ, how can you stand this noise?" I'd be like, "I don't even think about it."
My friends, I apologize, but I have to go.
Well, thank you
Something
for
has
being
come
here,
up.
sir.
It's good seeing you. Hope everything's
Likewise.
okay.
I watched
Until
the first
next time.
episode of Sandman on Netflix. I'm a fan of the comic book.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it.
Did you find the aspect ratio was off?
Something. Thank you. Is there something going on? Because something was
Yes.
weird.
Yes, everybody's been mentioning that. Because I looked it up on Twitter. I'm like,
Because it looks nice at times, but then at times it's what's going on here? It looks like one of those. Yeah. Once you said that, I was like, that makes total sense to me. The
Hmm.
aspect ratio, something. It almost looks like one of those old kung fu movies or something, where it's like warped a little bit. It's weird.
They're presenting it in the improper aspect ratio. It's supposed to be a little bit wider, but they've squished it to make it. It's a slightly different aspect. The same thing happened with the stand on Amazon Prime. You can it's
Uh,
still like
on
it. They
Paramount.
never changed it. They never fixed it. The stand on Amazon Prime, which would have been on Paramount Plus in the United States, uh, exact same thing where they look squished. I'm like, yeah, you can, especially when they do certain angles, you can really tell. Then it's like, oh wait, this is off. And you look, I try to adjust it or look at it in other devices. No, it's an actual mistake. It's weird.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I want to
Good
reread
show
the.
though. I like it. It's interesting so far. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm gonna reread the first few issues again because I
I'll
haven't
leave
read
you
those
with
in
this
so long.
story. My dog, when he was a puppy, when we first got him, he was about 6 months old. He got a bad case of diarrhea, and I had all the Sandman books on a low bookshelf,
oh god,
and now I don't have any of those Sandman
this
books
is a true
anymore.
story.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
don't have any
god.
of those books anymore. He went to town on all of them, and yeah, it was it hurt. It hurt because I love those books, but
Mm.
I haven't had time. I haven't really put in the effort to like recuperate them. Like I went to my local store down that's near me now, but all they sell is Marvel and DC stuff, basically, like just like the main stuff, not really the Sandman-y level stuff. Anyway, I gotta go. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
Thank you.
Take
See
care.
ya.
Bye.
Did you watch the first episode of Sandman?
I haven't. I'm gonna reread some of the comic if I have time. I've just been so busy with I mean I was rewatching a lot of DS9 lately. I'm also like rewatching Lower Decks, getting ready for season 3 very soon.
Where are you two
Um
on For All Mankind?
I haven't watched today's episode, but I was current until today. Antonia is out of town. I was gonna wait for her to get back because we watched that together. It's her favorite show right now.
What do you think of the season so far? I won't give away anything. Actually, you know what? The last episode is just a lead into something really good because I think the finale is like an hour and 22 minutes. I actually thought the
Oh
finale was
wow.
today, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it's episode 9. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
penultimate.
I did watch that last night, actually, like 24, more than 24 hours ago. It was like on there
Yeah.
early.
We typically watch on Thursdays, but she was out of the house last night and she's gone tonight. She'll get back tomorrow, so hopefully I watch it tomorrow. But I'm liking season 3. It's a very good show. They really lean hard into like the making Russia really evil in season 3, which I think that might have been like some real world politics seeping into the show. So I kind of wish that they would have maintained, a bit more of the nuance and gray that they had in seasons 1 and 2. But beyond that, I've loved most almost everything in season 3. And there's like some of the these actors are so old now. Like they're all like 25
The,
years older than they were
the
in season
characters are
1.
older, yeah.
Or yeah, I'm sorry, the characters are
They,
older.
they they do put on this subtle makeup. They pad their butts a bit, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do
Some of
stuff
them
with
are
them.
better at it than others. Like
Yeah.
Margot always feels old. Ed always feels old. Other ones like they don't pull it off as well, but it's very hard to be convincing with all of that stuff. But yeah, in
It
spite of that, I
is,
still
yeah.
love the show. Did
It
you see
tries
Nope?
anyway.
The Jordan Peele Nope movie? Did you see that?
Nope.
There's actually a For All Mankind actor in that movie, and when I saw her, I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, I forgot that you're actually this young because I'm used to you looking so much older all the time now on For All Mankind."
Is she the butcher's ex-wife from
Uh,
The Boys?
I've never watched The Boys, but it's Margot.
Oh, Margot. Okay, yeah, yeah. She's really when you see her in real life, you're like, oh yeah, you're yeah.
But she's
She.
so good at like
I'm
looking
less interested
old.
in her character though than most. I mean, her and the Russia thing. It's like you're talking about her, the head of NASA, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I have nitpicks. Like sometimes they play songs. I'm like, you're not even in that year yet. But um,
Yeah, in season 2, they showed a clip of the real Ghostbusters. Did you ever watch that cartoon?
Yes.
They showed a clip of it in 1984, and
Mm,
that show wasn't out in 84 was when the movie came out.
yeah,
The
I
cartoon
know.
wasn't until like late 80s.
They can have their cake and eat it too, because they can say, well, butterfly effect changes
Yeah,
the
in our
order
timeline.
when of things come out, but at the same time, if everything else changes so drastically, right? I mean, everything else really. I mean, they've got cell phones, and they have 2003 cell phones in 1990 fucking two. Once they get to 94, like, things are looking pretty almost modern.
Yeah. The
So
90s iPhones.
yeah, it's like, where why don't you just say that, invent different music that's never existed,
Well,
like a variation on a popular song, but it's not exactly that song. I
you
think
can't
that would have
like
been more clever, but I understand why they use real pop culture elements
right.
to put it in a particular time. Yeah.
Like you can't resurrect the guy from Soundgarden who died some years back. You can't like bring him back to life and be like, okay, re-record Black Hole Sun, but make it sound a little different. So they just go
Mm.
with what they. I think, yeah, that's just like
It's one of those things you just accept.
yeah, like
You don't
you
want to be
want
too
it you
it's
want it
so
to
good
feel
you don't
like
want to
the
be that
time.
nitpicky.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of a difficult thing to a tightrope to balance. But yeah, you want it to feel like this time period, but you also want it to be different. So
uh,
how do you do that?
I am noticing just a few shots of, wide shots, on the, let's mild spoiler, some of it takes place on Mars, but you see them walking out in their suits in these full CG shots of people in their suits, and some of those shots look so, like, amateur, like not
Really,
even fucking up to snuff. And it's just a few seconds, just the way they move, it's like very CGI robotic, and it's, you
I
see
haven't
it,
noticed that.
you see it. It's very brief. But it's like, huh? I had to rewind it one time. I'm like, did I really just see that weird unfinished shot? It seemed.
I've been
And
incredibly impressed with the landscape stuff. Like whenever they show like
yeah,
wide shots of Mars and stuff, and the moon too. The moon always I would forget that I was watching a TV show. It always felt like it was like I was actually looking at people on the moon and stuff. So
there's
I've been pretty impressed.
there's virtually no excuse for, uh, not having photorealistic images nowadays, because that can be achieved by anyone. That's a good element, like the landscapes and everything like that. But I find with CG, the problem still lies in movement, how things move. For example, I'll just give an example of the 2018 Predator movie. They have this big, gigantic CGI Predator in the movie. Looks photorealistic as hell. Looks like it's actually there, like it's the skin, the light, the way the light's reflecting off it. All of this looks 100%. It's the bouncy CGI nature of those CGI creatures that they make, that it's like I can see the computer working. I can see the that cartoony kind of CGI bounce they have sometimes. Like they have dogs in it too. They had them in two movies. These Predator dogs. They had them in Predators with Adrian Brody and all those guys,
Mm-hmm.
and they had them in 2018. And even it's like, technically, they blend pretty well. It's just the way they're moving gives it away. That it's like a not. They just can't get the movement down for some reason with some of these creatures when they do creature effects. It just looks too smooth and, I don't know, gelatinous. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, when the Predator in the Predator 2018 movie turns around really fast, it's like he doesn't have the spine. He doesn't have a spine. It's kind of like a weird fluid jiggle and a bounciness to it. I can't explain it.
But yeah, I know what you mean. There's a
It
certain
drives me nuts. I think there's something
unnatural.
wrong with me. I don't know.
There's a yeah. You seem to be pretty
Obsessed.
obsessed with like bad CGI. I try not to let it get to me too much. The only time CGI really bothers me, because I understand like not everything can have like the biggest budget in the world, and Disney has kind of ruined CGI for everyone. But the only time it really bothers me is it's like, why did you do that CGI? You could have done it with a practical effect and it would have looked so much better.
The evolution of practical effects have been stifled a bit. Like there's some good animatronics that if had continued to be developed, much like George Lucas was with like CGI, like he championed that. Where was the champion for? Let's keep improving the animatronics until they're really good, to the point where you had that. I mentioned this before. The Gremlin from Gremlins 2, the one that talked. It looks so good because they were actually the computer synced the dialogue, so it'd be like
Yeah,
that's innovative kind of stuff to actually have a creature full face and lip syncing so convincingly. It's funny how that's never been utilized more, but CG seems to be the easy route.
yeah, and your brain can tell on a subconscious level. Like if you're watching an actor talk to Kermit the Frog, you're clearly going to be able to tell, like, well, that's not a real frog. That's a puppet. But your brain is like, okay, but this guy is like making eye contact with this physical thing. It's like actually there. There's something there. So your brain kind of processes it as more real than if you're watching someone talk to Thanos in Avengers Endgame. It might be like really good CGI, but somewhere in your brain it's thinking like, well, that's not an actual character. That's not a person that's actually there. That's just like a cartoon. So there's always going to be like some subconscious disconnect. Sometimes it's more damaging than other times, but yeah,
I love the
if I'm
artistry
enjoying
of
something, I'll
people.
forgive it if it's bad. It's just it annoys me when it's like you didn't really need to go CGI with that.
Yeah, it's a very tricky. It's a very tough business to be in, like these visual effects for big budget movies and whatnot, and like you got a time crunch, and it's weird. I'd like to think that this. I think about this. If I were a director, it would drive me crazy. I couldn't do it. I'd be like, if I'm gonna do anything with CGI, I would need to make sure that it works so well. There are directors out there like Michael Bay, for example. Think what you like about him, but one of his last movies, he came out and he's like, I hate this one shot in the movie. It looks so fake or whatever. And I think the shot wasn't even that bad, but he just has such a meticulous eye for photorealistic CGI that he will rant and rave about it not. You always find directors who's like, yeah, it's good, and the audience is like, yeah, it's pretty good. Like that Transformers had some great CGI. The Revenge of the Fallen has some fantastic CGI. Terrible movie, but it's like that's not the be all and end all of it. But I want that director who Christopher Nolan, I think, is best at that. He's one of these guys who like anything. I want most of it in camera. Tom Cruise too. Like Tom Cruise movies are all about like, what can we do in camera, and use visual effects to enhance, say, a thing or erase. I don't know, tethers or whatever.
Yeah.
I watched Lightyear and I didn't watch all of it. I had to stop because it was boring. You say you saw it. I liked the first half. All that stuff about the time dilation and him trying. Once he gets with that group and the granddaughter and stuff, and I checked out. Taika Waititi's. It wasn't. I thought like, okay, he's voicing the character. It might be funny. No, and it just didn't. I just kept like my tension waned, and I said, well, I might as well just turn it off. I don't know.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fine.
It started off strong, like the concept of him going out there every. You'd think if he was going to lose 4 years every time, that a little more research would have gone into that thing he makes into a proper crystal or whatever the hell that was. Like, that was a bit weird. Like, oh, he just keeps going out and he knows these people are going to grow old and die and he's not going to know anybody eventually. But okay. That went on a bit too long, but anyway. if that were the whole movie, if like they somehow had the first half, and then like Zurg come, I don't know, Lightyear, whatever.
Yeah, I
Where
didn't
was
really have
Tim
any.
Allen? Hey, why wasn't Tim Allen doing the voice? No, I'm joking.
Did people want it to be Tim Allen?
I don't know. There was some kind of uproar about that. It's like, why isn't Tim Allen doing the voice? I was
Yeah,
like, I
I
don't
don't
know.
have any strong opinions on Lightyear. I don't really care about like the Toy Story. I know like a lot of people like love Toy
Beautiful
Story.
animation though. I mean, it can't be beat.
Yeah, it's good. I thought a lot of like the actiony sequences were well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I'm not someone who like I don't even know how many Toy Stories they've four, five, four.
4,
Okay, I haven't seen all of them.
to
I know
infinity.
Pixar makes good movies. It's just never a high
I'm falling
priority
off with
for
that
me.
now. I'm like, I'm not really that interested in. Like I used to be. I'm like, I mean, I'm an adult, and they're kind of kids movies, but they're for
Yeah,
everybody.
I like Wall-E. That's a good one.
But at first, it was like this novelty of like, oh, the really detailed CGI cartoon type of thing. It was a new thing. It wasn't like Toy Story came along, and then it changed the game. Then it was A
Hmm.
Bug's Life, and so Trek, and from DreamWorks, and then so on and so forth. But now it's just like, oh, a really well animated CGI movie. It's just par for the course, and you don't. It's like I don't expect any less now.
Now I'm excited whenever there's animation that isn't CGI. Like I know you watch some of the DC animated movies.
Yes.
Um, a lot of them have gotten kind of shitty in recent years. They're like every now and then there's like a really good one. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed those because like oh, it's actual like 2D animation or like Young Justice. I haven't watched this most recent season, but like I really like that show and yeah, I'm always like hoping for more of the two. That's what I would love them to do with Star Trek is do a Earth Romulan war show, but do it animated and do it in like that style of like Young Justice or something like that.
Yeah, that would be good. I
And
mean,
you could bring the Enterprise characters over because it would just be the actors doing the voices. So who cares that they look 20 years older now?
have you seen Invincible on Prime?
No, but yeah, something like in that
Something
style.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, have like I mean, you would probably want to do like Lower Decks has the CGI ships and stuff, but the characters look like 2D animation. Like I'm thinking like you would like do that and have like uh Earth Romulan ship battles and maybe like do like another like not the Enterprise but do like a different ship but they could still like sometimes like they'll team up with like Archer and the Enterprise and stuff.
Since we're on the subject of Star Trek, remember last week when we were speculating about Picard season 3 and why this guy Robert Meyer Burnett, this guy like nobody knows who he is, but the infamous, whatever you want to say, the viceroy of verisimilitude, he calls himself, or people call him. He has a bunch of names. It's like a play on the Daenerys thing. Uh, he has sometimes he does Robservations is a show that he does, but he's on the John Campea show. He's a lot of opinions about different things. He directed Free Enterprise, which starred William Shatner. He worked on the Star Trek TNG Blu-ray, which he told me cost $12 million over a 4-year period, so $3 million per year, which sounds about right.
Yeah, that's why we ain't getting the DS9 HD remaster anytime
It'll be
soon.
3 times that much. But we speculated about what he like his relationship with Terry Metellus, and I sent him the video, and he seemed to be responding to me in real time to what was in last week's video. So you can watch that if you want for the previous video in this channel. The timestamp is in the comments of when this discussion starts. And I actually left that there for him in case he clicked on it, and he did, and he watched it. And I won't go over exactly what was said because we were just, shooting the shit about what Picard season 3 could be about, because it's a big season of Star Trek, possibly the biggest in years, decades maybe. And this is what he said. Well, first I said, most of us are inebriated. I assure you, the gossipy nature of the conversation is just in fun. I am a fan and mean you no offense. Keep up the good work. I want to be civil. I want to be nice. And I guess he was like, wow, this is a nice young man. I think I'll watch the video. And he responded, the visual effects are rather finished, by the way. He gave me permission to respond or to show his clarification. I don't want to actually show the message on the screen type of thing. I don't know. It's too much. But he said, by the way, I wouldn't say Terry actually showed me anything. That wouldn't be entirely correct. Now, a little bit of a warning. There's mild spoilers maybe for Picard Season 3. So just, if you don't want to know anything, I mean, nobody's watching. So what am I saying? People will watch on the replay. They will hopefully 2-3 people will watch the replay. But he said, and I didn't work, because we speculated about maybe he's working for Paramount.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Well, he said, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. I need some water. Damn you. He said, I didn't work on anything Trek related since doing TNG and the Enterprise Blu-ray documentaries from 2012 to 2014. So he clarified that. Then he said, okay, by the way, I never interacted with Terry until a few months ago when he complimented Free Enterprise after I questioned his send-off of the TNG crew. He had a tweet about like their send-off, proper send-off or something. Most of this happened on Twitter. And I said, thank you for the clarification. He said, however, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. By the way, this is a spoilery thing. He said there are 5 Enterprises in the series. But not how you imagine. No time travel is involved. I'm thinking museum or something. He probably said that on his channel. I don't know. He's probably telling me things he's already said. And I said, if it's okay with you, may I address these clarifications or select ones next time I hang out? And he said, of course. And I said, I'm starved for a good season of Picard. This sounds promising. And he said, oh, it's huge. And I don't know what he was talking about there, but that was the end of the conversation. So he was
cool.
civil enough. He was civil enough to respond. I mean, that was nice.
Yeah, I don't know much about like his content. I've seen him a couple times, but never really engaged with a lot of his stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely known for being like one of the most vocal critics of modern Star Trek. So it was definitely a shock. It was definitely a surprise. You know, there's a shockwave like the explosion of Praxis in Star Trek 6 rippling across the Twitter sphere when he started heaping praise on this 3rd season of Picard. So you know, I think PJ, you mentioned last week you're trying to keep your expectations low. I know that you've had a troubled history with Picard. You know, I like Picard much more than you do. You know, but I still have some issues with it. You know, there's a lot of stuff I loved in season 2 of Picard. Pretty much like that entire like first half of the season, I was having a great time. There's some things I really didn't like in season 2 of Picard. For the most part, I liked where most things ended up at the end, and some of the big stuff the things that I didn't like tended to be more minor things. So, but even that being said, like I'm not going to get like super excited, super hyped for this 3rd season, but I like almost everything I've heard from everyone. There's only one thing that I've heard about this season that kind of bothers me. And that's everyone talking about like we're gonna have like this great villain. We wanted to have like a villain that in the same example as Khan from the Wrath of Khan. I'm like, why do we have to keep trying to redo Khan? Everyone's heard me go on this rant before, but other than that, I like everything that I've been told. I don't know. You watched my show earlier when I was just like basically just jerking off to DS9 season 5 and how much I love that. I'm not expecting this to be like on that level, but yeah, I mean it should be good, or at least have like a lot of good stuff in it based on what we're hearing, right?
Am I crazy, or did Kurtzman recently say somewhere that getting Avery Brooks would be a thing. Like he would be like, we're gonna try or something. Like nobody knows where this man is. And
Well,
apparently,
Sirach Lofton does.
he's claimed to have been blacklisted in Hollywood. I don't know what he did. I don't. And he hasn't had a reputation of being some asshole or something, as far as I know. So why would he be blacklisted for one thing? Why would he claim that? And who the hell wouldn't want to see Sirach Lofton and Benjamin Sisko? I was gonna say Avery Brooks back on the screen as their characters.
Yeah, I think what Kurtzman actually said at San Diego was like, figuring out Cisco, what the continuation of Cisco, that would be important. Which, yeah, it is interesting. He didn't say Avery, but I mean, what else could he possibly mean by that? Now, here's the thing: they're doing a comic book series. It's launching in October, an ongoing Star Trek comic book series that is about Cisco. It's kind of like multiverse and time travel, but Cisco comes out of the wormhole, and he's like back, and he basically like puts like this new crew together. Data is on it, like, and they're gonna go do like multiverse adventures or something like that.
What the hell?
But
really?
Yeah,
Okay,
but
whatever.
so
Okay, cool.
yeah, like the first story arc is gonna be like all like the godlike beings in the Star Trek universe. Something's killing all the gods. But anyways, the reason I bring that up, a few years ago, IDW, the comic book publishing house that currently has the rights to make Star Trek comics. They've done some good stuff, by the way. But a few years ago, they wanted to do a comic series with the Next Generation crew. And they were told by CBS Studios, they said, don't do that because we're about to do a Star Trek Picard TV show. So now that they're doing like this Cisco comic, I think there's no immediate plans to do anything major with Cisco. But yeah, I mean, maybe he could come back. I actually had thought of a way that would be a satisfying way to use Cisco without actually showing him. But I'm so scared of, if I ever say this like publicly, then the writers, if any of the Star Trek writers see it, then like they won't use it because they're not supposed to use stuff that they don't come up with themselves. So
They definitely won't see this.
I'll tell you off air when there's no record of it. But yeah, I mean, these writers, these showrunners, they clearly lie to us about what they're working on and not working on. Mike McMahon said like last year, he's like, I don't know if I could ever go back to Deep Space Nine. I would just be sad not to be able to have Renee come back and play Odo again. I see the season 3 trailer, and what the fuck do they show at the very end? The Cerritos literally go into Deep Space Nine. Okay, so he lied about that.
What year would that be in the show? That would be
80. They're in 80. If it picks up a year after season 2, because season 2 is in 81, so it's 82 now.
Okay,
but it might be the same, because I also heard Mike McMahon. I know, just talking about him being a liar. I'm not like angry. I'm okay if like they lie in order to surprise me. But Mike McMahon said like they might not do every season as a different year. They might like combine, because he doesn't want to get up to the destruction of Mars and like and step on the Picard territory. He said like he wants Lower Decks to finish before that. So, which makes sense. They can't stay ensigns forever. I know Mariner always gets demoted, but Kurtzman lied too when he was talking about on the Ready Room about like the Gorn, saying like, yeah, like, we're trying to figure out how we want to do the Gorn. Like, I think like it'll be like a little bit of puppetry, a little bit of CGI. It's like clearly they had already made that episode, so like these guys, like they'll
want to
mislead.
see the reaction.
Yeah, they'll try to save the surprises for when we actually see it, which I understand. But I'm just saying, like, going forward, we need to take, whenever they say like, we're trying to figure this out, or we need to think about this, or what was another big one? The crossover. You know how like Akiva Goldsman, they would just be like, yeah, like we think we should probably do a crossover at some point. That seems inevitable. Like, yeah, we want to make sure we get it right, so we're still thinking about it. What? Like, you've already shot season 2 of Strange New Worlds. Like, you were just like a couple months ago saying like, we're thinking about how to do that. It's like, man, you're probably shooting that episode like the same week that you were saying that. So
yeah, that's a weird pattern. It's not. I think they're just they're testing the waters. I think.
Yeah.
Like, we've done this thing. Let's say, what if we do this thing and see the reaction? And like, we've done it already. I don't know about this even crossover stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah,
You
you
know
said you
what?
had concerns on the lower decks one.
It. I fear the Trek is just gonna become too bubblegum. It's like this dish. This doesn't taste right. I don't know. It's like Discovery is good. Uh, the only real bad one is Picard. Like, I can't say that I hate any of the other ones. It's just, I don't know. The thrill is gone. I'm not as enthused for the. I don't expect the kind of quality of like the greatest, most serious of the Trek, and like a lot of the old stuff is there's a lot of crap back there.
Yeah,
A lot of
but
bad episodes, but some of
they're
them
different,
were just such classic,
right? Yeah, if
classic
you,
gold nuggets of goodness.
I mean, some people are just totally obsessed with like the Rick Berman era, and like that's like 90s Trek. Like people talk about that. Um, where I know people like there's not as many these days as there used to be, but there's some people like all they really like is the original series, and they're like, yeah, like I just never had a desire to watch Star Trek that doesn't have Shatner and Nimoy in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like our friend Adam, who does the Starfleet Boy reviews with us, he's very open minded about like all the new Star Trek shows, but he's just into TOS. He just like that's what he likes, like that flavor. There's plenty of people who like they hate TOS, but they love Next Generation. They love Voyager. They love like that Berman style.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I first saw TOS, I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is what my favorite show is based off." Like, I didn't have that concept when I was younger. Like, something that I was watching was actually a continuation of an older thing, and it looked old as heck. Because back then, when they showed Star Trek, it wasn't like the remastered shit. Now it was like
right.
grainy and fucking shitty looking. It really did not look good. It's all '60s TV stuff. Back in the day when they aired it on TV, whatever copy they had of this show was always like terrible compared to like just we're used to the HD scan of the original negatives now. Like we're just used to it. By the way, DS9 needs to be remastered. God damn it.
I mean, I think someday it'll happen, but it's gonna be a while. But what's crazy is that in January, Deep Space Nine turns 30 years old.
Dun, 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 dun.
Trials and Tribulations came out to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the original series. So now Deep Space Nine is going to be as old as TOS was when we were kids watching Trials and Tribulations.
My God.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
We're getting old. Getting so old. So very old.
Yeah, like First Contact came out in 96 when Star Trek was 30 years old. Like we're about to, just in a few more years, we're about to be like the 30th anniversary of Star Trek First Contact.
I remember seeing First Contact, and whatever showing I went to, it was like, I don't know, 10 people. Same thing with Generations too. There's always not very many, but enthusiastic, like people who respond to shit in the movie, which doesn't really happen all that much, but people like, yes, go Data, or whatever.
I remember a big turnout for First Con, and I saw that in the theater. I saw it 3 times. I saw it in Pflugerville, Texas.
Ship's got a big laugh. I remember that. Sorry, go ahead.
I saw it in Pflugerville, Texas. I saw it in Temple, Texas, and I saw it in Bryan, Texas. And like all 3 times, it seems like there's like a lot of people packed in there.
I remember Insurrection.
That one, on the other hand, yeah, that didn't get a lot of laughs. Or did people laugh at like, have you noticed how your boobs have started to firm up? That movie was, man, I remember people just talking shit about that movie.
I remember the Worf stuff didn't work. Like the Worf going through puberty with the pimple on his nose. I'm like, oh, they're ruining Worf. Stop.
Definitely feeling aggressive tendencies, sir.
That was what they used in the trailer. And
yeah, I remember that.
Worf's fucking kicking ass. And I'm like, oh no, he's just a goof.
Man, I actually read like a summary of that movie that leaked online. and it sounded so much cooler than when I got to go to the theater to actually see the movie when it came out. Like what I read on the internet, like that part where they're trying to capture Data when Data's just going insane on the scout ship, and they're singing the British Targ, whatever not
Yeah.
Targ, what is it?
Rodgers and Hammerstein or something.
Yeah, the bullshit song. But like when Worf like comes on there and like tries to like deactivate Data with a tricorder, and then they bring him back to the Enterprise. But for some reason, the way I read it in the summary, I thought like they were gonna fight, and I as like as a youngster, I was like, man, that's gonna be so cool to have like Worf and Data fight because they're both like really strong. Like, what if like Worf like punches Data in the face and is like the face just like crushes, like it's like broken plastic pieces
Yeah.
falling off. And it was not anywhere near it. And Quark actually shows
I could
up.
be wrong, but in the commentary of the DVD, if I remember correctly, they explained that they would have done that, but they just had him do the turn him off thing just to save money and time.
Oh, maybe I was reading.
I could be wrong about that. I could be like it just brought up a memory of like because I used to always listen to the commentaries, right?
I bet I
remember
was
the commentary
reading
for
a
Generations where they trashed the whole movie the whole
yeah.
time.
Yeah, more and I talked about that when we covered Generations on Text Trek because I kind of have issues with Generations, but I bet I read a summary of the script and not someone who had actually seen the movie because there were several things that I know like didn't show up, like Quark. I know they actually shot this, but the footage has never been released. But Quark was supposed to show up at the very end on the Baku planet, and he's like, "I'm going to set up a resort here." And then Picard's like, I don't think so. I'll take you back to Deep Space Nine with Mr. Worf.
Didn't Armin Shimmerman actually film a scene that they've never released?
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
And it's never seen the light of day.
I've seen a picture from it. And he's like,
I've seen a blurry picture of it.
yeah. He's like standing there with like two hot girls. It's like the last scene where like they're when they beam up from the Baku village, when Data's like, I have to go home now. He's playing with the kids and stuff.
That would have been stupid though, hey? Like Quark just I don't know.
Yeah, like what the fuck are you doing in the Briar Patch, fool?
It's like, well,
Like,
Worf can just be on the Enterprise every movie, so there you go.
yeah, so I always make fun of that. So First Contact, they come up with like a good reason why Worf is there. The Defiant was in that battle. Makes perfect fucking sense.
What a missed fucking opportunity that was to have the DS9 crew proper.
Or at least O'Brien.
Just Dax, Cisco, Worf, fucking just a lot. And then be a part of the fucking movie. Because you had two stories going on. You had the ship and what's happening on the ground. And they could have very easily been like the supporting characters in that movie.
Cisco having to work together with Picard, with like the guy who murdered his wife. But like they both want revenge against the Borg. That would be interesting, huh?
Fans would have lost their minds. And the fact that the Defiant showed up was like, I got a rush. I was like, oh yeah, I did see it was in the preview. Like you knew it was going to happen, but you're like, how often is it going to be in the movie? Like that's what I was thinking initially. Like, what will they do with it? And then it was just like, yeah, it's broken and we got it stored away. That's it.
Yeah, a lot of the cool connective tissues were like really present. When they mentioned First Contact on DS9. In Purgatory's Shadow, Cisco mentions like the recent Borg attack, but there is a lot like the Marvel Cinematic Universe does this a lot now, where I like one of the TV shows will mention something that happened in a movie or something like that. So yeah, but Kevin Feige was a big Star Trek fan. I do think it'd be wonderful if he like ran Star Trek, but like Paramount would never be able to afford him. He makes like the gigantic Disney bucks, so that ship has gone to warp. But it just cracks me up. In First Contact, they come up with like a good reason why Worf is there. Insurrection, they just have Picard be like, Mr. Worf, what the hell are you doing here? And they don't really explain it, but they acknowledge it. But in Nemesis, it doesn't make any sense. Like Worf's supposed to be like the Federation ambassador on Kronos. Just on Nemesis, he just like shows up back on the Enterprise, and they never say jack shit about it.
And Picard's being like teasing him and stuff, and he's like pouting, and I'm like, oh fuck this.
Yeah.
And I, Worf is great DS9. He really brought
He
that
really
show
is.
to another level,
Mm.
and there was something about First Contact, seeing that for the first time, even seeing the fucking trailer on Entertainment Tonight. I've said this before. It's the part where Picard's all sweaty and shit. He's like, "You're a coward," and Worf's like, the reverse angle, then it's Worf. He's like, "If you were any other man, I would kill you." I was like, "Oh my
Yes.
god, Worf is mad at Picard, and then they're mad at each other. What's going on?" That had me hyped. And when I saw the movie, that feeling of like, wow, my favorite TV show is now making people criticize First Contact. I've heard some people for being like too blockbustery, popcorny, typical 90s fucking sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
action. I'm like, that's exactly what it needed to be after Generations, people. And to bring in the Borg, and yes, you got the Borg Queen, you added an element, and you messed with, that was another time too when they messed with canon, so to speak. They retroactively said that, oh well, the Borg Queen was always around. She actually, they knew each other in the best of both worlds
Mm-hmm.
episode. Just we didn't know about it at the time. I thought that was cool as fuck, and I just loved it.
Yeah, I had that same reaction as you when I saw the Picard and Worf at loggerheads in the trailer. I was very intrigued by that, and Worf just I was such a Worf fan as a kid. You know, the moment the assimilate this, but yeah, they kind of turn into like an '80s action hero with like the corny one-liners. Talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger earlier, but
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun, man. That's one of my favorite. That's my favorite theatrical experience with Star Trek is First
same
Contact.
here. Yeah, nothing's ever beat that feeling of like, oh my god, this is a good movie. Oh
Hmm.
my god, it continues to be a good movie. Oh my god, this is the best one. At the time, I was like, nothing beats this. But a lot of them are good. Like the
Yeah,
originals are fucking awesome.
the second best theatrical experience for me with Star Trek was probably Star Trek '09 because I was so terrified that movie was going to be terrible. And when I went to go see it, it was actually a lot of fun and I had a good time. I just felt so relieved. I was like, "Thank you, they didn't ruin it." Oh, I am so relieved.
That was
You know, when
pretty
when
much
Pike
my
says at the
reaction.
end, when
Yeah,
Pike says to Chris Pine at the end, and he's like, "I stand relieved," and then it's like the end of the movie. I'm like, "Woo, I'm relieved too, buddy."
it pleased me because it was both a sequel. It was a continuation of the Nemesis timeline.
Hmm.
It had a portion that took place there. They had elements there, but it was setting up like, okay, we're creating an alternate timeline. Now we can do what we want. We don't
Hmm.
have to worry about stuff. We can do our own thing. And it was fun, and I had a good time, and I left thinking, now they're going to do their own thing. They're not going to copy the old movies or anything. And fucking, they did. It's like Khan, and oh, it's like kind of a remake of Wrath of Khan. Okay. Okay, sure, I'll give it a chance. It's like, oh my god, when Spock screams Khan after Kirk dies, I swear to God, I was gonna lose my fucking mind. I went to see it with people. I went to see twice. The second time I had a better time
Hmm.
because I dismissed all of the hang-ups.
You knew what
I
to
was like, it's
expect.
a good, it's a popcorn stupid action movie that's very very excellent visual effects. Like, but that JJ lens flare and some of the elements of those movies wear thin, and they've been adapted and overdone in the modern TV shows. And they've learned their lesson. They've learned to tone it down. They totally listen to people who are like, "I'm light sensitive. I can't even look at your fucking show." Like
We
it's
know
just bleh, lights every fucking in your face. I'm sorry, I'm cursing so much, but lights in your face everywhere. Season 2 of Discovery, which is a slicker looking season, in some episodes go way overboard. There are literally shots where lens flares are fading in and out and hovering and moving around. You're like, where's that coming from? There's even no point of
Yeah.
reference for like why the flare is happening in any way. Like sometimes it's used well. Where you're like, I get why the flare is used because light's in the shot. But other times it's like you're just putting it in there to make the conversation more interesting or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they've definitely toned that down. I actually, my favorite season of Discovery, I feel like I'm the only one who says this, but my favorite was actually season 4. And I think that was in season 4, they had like a little bit more confidence in the show and they were willing to slow down. You could argue they slowed down too much because they kind of dragged the season out past its welcome and take too long to resolve things. But there were more like I don't want to say like normal, but I guess there were more like just traditional, conversation scenes, and a lot of that was probably like COVID and a lot of restrictions and stuff. But it felt like they were comfortable enough and confident enough that like, okay, we don't have to do like crazy like spin the camera around, weird lighting effects, all this. Like we can just show like these two actors talking, and just trust the scene to be engaging, and yeah, and it works a lot better.
There was a vast improvement in the visuals season 3 onward. I think, like they just knew what they were doing more
Yeah.
so.
But even season 3, it felt like they were still trying so hard. Like they had to inject so much action into everything. Like the first episode, when Book and Burnham are, and it was a fun watch, I think. But yeah, when they're like running around like shooting a
Oh
bunch of
yeah, yeah,
dudes and
yeah.
stuff. And then I kind of liked some of the stuff at the end of the season and the finale, but then like it just reverted. Like when we have Osira and Vance talking, like negotiating and stuff, like that was to me much more interesting. And like that conflict there between the Emerald Chain and the remnants of the Federation, that was more interesting to me than, oh look, now Burnham and Osira are just gonna have like this big fight in like giant turbo lift city, and fight by the computer core and everything. And but in season 4, I felt like they took like a big step back from even that stuff. And so I certainly enjoy season 4 the most. My concern going into Discovery season 5 is that like, are we losing like all the characters? I mean, like, is Tilly, how big of a part is Tilly gonna have? And um
Yeah. It I it, I would say about season 4, it has the most coherent and easy to follow story that doesn't leave you like, huh? At the end, like what? Season 3 with the whole, what
oh
they
yeah,
call it, the
Sukal,
burn.
the burn, yeah.
By the time they got to any resolution, I mean personally, I was just like, I don't care, and the reason is stupid, and it's 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 not as good as individual moments or scenes in episodes. It's not like Terra Firma, I think parts 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good section of season 3. Season 4 opens with the butterfly people.
I
Like
liked
the
them.
the butterfly people. Oh come on.
I
What
liked
do you?
them.
I'm Dennis Miller all of a sudden with the butterfly people.
But I like, we had like things like,
Book is Don Quixote to Burnham's. No wait, Book is Sancho Panza to Burnham's Don Quixote.
okay. But they did drag out the like the whole like 10C mystery and all of that stuff. They dragged that out too much. How they
Oh
had like
god.
a hiatus after what was it? They did 7 and then took a break and then came back and did the final 6, I think. Yeah. Um that should, like those last 6 episodes I think could have been condensed into 3 episodes.
I appreciated the process of the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah, I
whole
did too.
okay, you have this thing you don't understand. You know what it was like? I explained it like it's like if they took a novel that was like had a detailed plot that moved along at a novel's rate where like every little thing is being explained, but they took it too literally, and you took what could have been 8 to 10 episodes, and you stretched it out, and you lost me a bit. You didn't lose me completely, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I the process in which they have to go through to finally communicate with the 10C, and it's simple. It's a simple thing of like, can you just stop? Please, stop! You're hurting us. There you go. That's all it needs to be said. But because it's such a different entity, like outer galactic entity of whatever, with such awesome power, it's like, how do you do it? And that process was good. Like I can't really fault how they resolved it, but God damn, guys, it would have been so much better if you'd gotten to it a few episodes earlier.
Right. Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. But, you know, the problem was that it was always going to be a 13 episode season. That was just, you know, what the order was for. I think that it's probably advantageous for them that they're going to do a 10 episode fifth season. And I'm curious, I don't know if they would ever do this, but I'm really curious if they would ever break their format a little bit. You know, what I would love to see with Discovery is if they tried to go the route of Enterprise season 4 with like those little 3 episode arcs. Like, what if they did something like that with Star Trek Discovery, where we got like three episode arcs and then like one just like really crazy one, you know, done in one like a musical episode, and so something that has like a very unique style to it. And
Oh, I never want to see a musical episode unless it's somebody's tripping on something. You know what I mean? Like, so,
it could be a
there's an
holodeck
excuse. There's an
program.
excuse for it.
Yeah.
Somebody's like literally losing their minds or something. Like,
Q does it or something.
it's like
I mean,
Joker Part 2, Folie à Deux or something with Lady
whatever
Gaga
the hell that's
and
gonna be.
fucking singing, Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix singing songs together.
Yeah, that'll be something.
But I don't think they're gonna abandon their whole season long arc shtick.
I don't either. I think that'd be cool if
This time it's gonna be
did.
the fog. Like, we gotta stop the fog. It's space. It's like a cloud or something. I don't.
Although Strange New Worlds is quite popular with its individual episodic format, so I do wonder if that will ever have an influence on any of the other shows. You know, like, but certainly not Picard. They got like their season 3 of Picard, and that's all in the can, so that'll be what that's going to be. But you know, it is possible they have like a little bit of influence on Discovery.
The way I observe a lot of shows now, that a lot of them are serialized, but you do have shows that handle individual arcs or stories within the grander scope of what's going on. Like, some shows do this thing where there's a problem that they deal with for most of the time, and then for some reason in the middle or something they kind of forget about it, and like, we're going to focus on another area of the ship or the characters or something. Yes, the big thing is going on, like the big threat to the galaxy, whatever. I bet you it's going to be a fog. They're going to be like, we got to get the fog. But it could be an attack on Earth. It could be like, they could lead the show into a war of sorts, like a 32nd century war with a new threat or an old threat. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I want for Discovery season 5, but I mean, like, they have a very unique position that they're like the 32nd century show, so they can, I think that they kind of already have like a tradition of being like a weird show. So yeah, I want them to, they should actually be the one with like the strange new worlds, like they should be like the strangest of them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like Burnham as captain. I think she works better there. I like Saru. I like Tilly, although I'm worried about how much she's going to be in the show. I like gay space dads. I like Jet Reno whenever I actually get to see her. So hopefully I see her more in season 5. I like Book, and his cat. So like Admiral Vance. So
Tig Notaro's new shtick now is shtick. I say that a lot. Her thing now is just to mail in her performance. She films it at home on a green screen, and they just digitally put the uniform and they just put her anywhere.
Literally mailing it in, huh? Well, it works for like that deadpan character she plays, so can't knock it. But yeah, I like all of the characters. I don't really know what I want with the story, but yeah, hopefully I'll have fun seeing those people back in action and whatever it is. I think it sounds like there's going to be more after season 5. Season 5 is the first year I was wondering, like, this could be the end of Discovery. But after some things that both Michelle Paradise and Sonequa Martin Green have both said, I don't think it is. I think we'll get season 6 or maybe season 7 might be where they stop. But yeah, at least one more.
You could do a Q episode or Barclay episode.
Maybe Barclay episode.
Maybe Q visited before he died. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, Q can show up anywhere in time, I guess.
something happens with Barkley. He goes missing back in the it was his time,
He shows up on Discovery.
and he shows up in Discovery Times, and they're like, "We found you."
They could bring in like the Voyager Doctor, like the hologram program was stored somewhere. Or like the one that was in Living Witness that was on like that one planet for hundreds and hundreds of years.
You have a de-aged Robert Picardo.
Yeah, or just be like, I decided to update my program to look a little older, give me some gray hair instead of my old black hair. Yeah, they'd have options to do stuff like that, but because they are so separate from everything else, that's kind of like a deliberate choice going into season 3, right? They wanted to separate from canon, basically. So I think that would be the best place to experiment with something really, really weird and out there. I think it's something else we should be talking about. I know you didn't want to talk about Star Trek, but
No,
you invited me on, so
no, it's all good.
Star Trek Day.
I had to address the Robert Meyer Burnett thing anyway.
Sure, yeah. I'm glad we talked about that. Thank you for sharing. Star Trek Day, September 8th. They're gonna do some event. They just announced they're doing it. No details yet or anything. I'm hoping we get a Prodigy premiere date for the rest of season 1. I hope that they tell us that then if we don't know it beforehand.
StarTrekNews.net on Twitter says Star Trek Day returns September 8th.
Yep.
Robert, I just want to say Robert Meyer Burnett retweeted it, but said, "Great. Hopefully they'll lean heavily on the Terry Matalas created 3rd season of Picard, the best modern Trek." Big words, like all caps. From costume design to starship configuration, it's as if everyone working on season 3 actually watched previous episodes of the franchise. That's been a common criticism. Like, have they ever watched it? Or are they just looking at the cliff notes? Like, oh, Khan and fucking Enterprise and okay. I saw... I want to bring up Trek Yards for a second. Good guys. Love them.
Yeah, very, very nice dudes. Met them in person. Incredibly nice people.
They were talking... They do specific videos on episodes, right? There's one specific video. I don't remember the name. They're talking about the Enterprise, the way it looked in the finale of Strange New Worlds, circa 2266, I guess, and how they didn't update it to look exactly like the TOS thing.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, I didn't ever expect them to change it, but do you think they'll ever adapt that mindset and say, the original shape of that design, you could really just put it in something modern and it holds up? People keep saying it doesn't, but I don't understand that. I think the neck is too long and it's too boxy or angular or something. I don't fucking know.
I think if they show that, it'll be at the very end of the show. It'll be in like the comparison I make is Smallville, the series finale, very last episode. I don't know if you've seen it, but
yes, I have. You know what's funny about Smallville? Loved the fact that they were making a Superman show because I liked Lois and Clark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't like it now, but
it didn't age well, but it had its moments.
Watched the first episode and just never continued. I was like, wasn't interested. And then, like, so many years later, it was ending. And I was like, I think I'll watch the last episode. So I've only actually ever seen the first and very last episodes.
Well, a lot of shit happened in between over a 10-year span of time. But
yeah, I saw. Yeah.
They only show him in the Superman costume in the last episode. So I think that might be what if they're ever going to do that with Strange New Worlds.
It's every shot is very wide and far away.
Yeah.
You don't really see him. There was never a shot of him up close, and you can see both him and the symbol. Like that was the thing.
And he's wearing Brandon Routh's Superman Returns suit. So it doesn't... Tom Welling, I think, is a bigger dude than Brandon Routh, so it probably didn't fit him very well. Probably like cut and stretch and do like... So yeah, it probably didn't like look good. It was the last episode of the show. Everyone was probably like, I don't give a shit about this show. I'm out of a job now. I'm trying to get on some other shit. Maybe this Arrow show they're trying to get started. Maybe I'll go work over there or some shit. But yeah,
I bailed on Gotham a few times because it was a show that I could take or leave, and I usually left. And I just ended up just watching the very last one of that, just to see the Batman fucking reveal. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, they do
oh,
Batman there too.
that looks like shit. What the fuck?
Everything I saw, I watched like the first half of the first season, and then I gave up on it. But there were people who would like talk about it and stuff, and every time I saw like a picture, like this is what Bane looks like, this is what the Joker looks like, this is what Batman looks. Every time I saw a picture, I was like, Jesus Christ, that looks goddamn terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was a very, you know, it's weird. It's such a violent show to call it like a kind of a daytime fucking drama. It's almost like what it is, but it's like a violent daytime drama.
Yeah,
It's just like a soap opera, but with a budget and violence and some blood and stuff.
I know Alexander Siddig plays Ra's al Ghul on it, and that sounds cool, but I ain't gonna sit through all the other bullshit in that show to get to those parts. Maybe I'll look up his
I watched one with
episodes.
him, and then I watched a random one about the Court of Owls. I was like, none of this is working.
I like the Court of Owls. I didn't know that they used them in that, because that's that just got created in the comics 10 years ago.
The dude who plays Penguin wears thin after a while. You're like,
oh Jesus
cool,
Christ!
But then, like after a while, he's just like, God.
Just in like the 5 or 6 episodes I watched, that guy killed like 20 people. It's insane.
Yeah, like very brutally.
Oh man,
the most violent thing Fox ever put on their channel was a show called The Following with Kevin Bacon. I think it was 2 seasons.
It sounds familiar. Remind me what that was.
Kevin Bacon is being targeted by the followers of a convicted man who's in prison who's obsessed with him. Kevin Bacon has written books about him and stuff, and his followers are. He somehow gets people to go out and just stab people everywhere. The show's got a lot of fucking stabbing and throat cutting, but it's like none of it's tame. It's very R-rated, and it was on Fox for 2 fucking seasons. I used to think like just random people getting it on the subway and stuff. I'm like, with these crazy fuckers. I'm like, this is a scary fucking show. I actually had a nightmare about it. I'm not even joking. It was so violent that I actually had a fucking like dream reaction. I don't call them nightmares. I call them dream reactions.
Well,
because when you actually have a nightmare about a specific thing, that's something.
You know what I had nightmares of out of like shows and movies and stuff? I saw Jurassic Park as a kid in the theater in what was that, 92? But I saw Jurassic Park, and then I had nightmares about the velociraptors. I was running through my school and hiding in the bathroom because there were velociraptors walking around in the school looking for me.
Those were scary. I've had dreams about Chucky and Freddy when I was younger. But
yeah, I've had Freddy Krueger.
Nothing too bad.
I had Freddy Krueger dreams. I don't know if Chucky's ever got in there, but
I've had dreams about Jason. But funny enough, he doesn't do anything. Like he's always there, but it's not like in the movies where he just teleports. He's just like, I can always just get away from him. It was always a weird thing. It's like Jason's the least of the nightmares. Like it's scary, but it's not that bad. Freddy Krueger nightmares, I swear to fuck. I've had recurring nightmares. Now this is just to think about it. I'm probably gonna have one tonight. It's where I'm watching a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's not like I'm in the movie or anything. It's always I'm watching one of the movies. But it's like it's kind of scenes from. It's like never really right. But it's always him doing stuff. And the feeling of dread and like panic comes over me as I'm watching it on the TV, and that's the nightmare.
It feels good when you wake up from that, though, right? When you wake up and you're like, "Oh, it's all a dream." Like that's a good feeling.
There was one where I was watching it, and then I'm in it, and I'm like convulsing on the floor, and it gave me that rush to wake up. I was like, "Oh my god, that's scary!" Like I'm watching the movie, and then I see myself in the movie. It's unrelated to Freddy, what he's doing. It's just me, like foam coming out of my mouth, and I'm like shaking and convulsing. I'm like, and it's like I'm watching it, but the scary thing is the realization that it's me. I'm like, oh my god, that's me! Ah! There's an episode of Black Mirror that's scary. It's the one with Wyatt Russell. I don't know if you remember that one, Black Mirror. Do you watch that show? No.
Yeah, I think I've seen all of it. What was the episode about?
He gets stuck in a virtual world, and it's like a Total Recall-ish type of
I feel like that
thing.
happened a couple times.
And at the end, he's talking to his mother, and he realizes his mother can't see him, that he's still in the thing, like he's not awake still, and he starts.
Mm.
It's really creepily done. I love that kind of horror, man. That gets your blood rushing. Not this fucking gratuitous like torture porn crap.
Yeah. Um, we were talking about the Deep Space Nine episode where Garrick goes crazy and is killing people, Empok Nor, and how that has like a really good jump scare in it. That I watched that episode twice just within like the last month. At both times, I jumped at the jump scare, like I knew it was coming. And it's funny that the first time I watched it, it was the same week that the Gorn episode of the second Gorn episode of Strange New Worlds came out. There's a jump scare in there with when Spock kind of steps out on his own, and Dr. Mbenga sneaks up on him on accident.
Oh yeah.
And, like, it didn't make me jump, but I was thinking like, man, like this DS9 episode I've seen like 47 times. That makes me jump, but I mean, those things are kind of hard to pull off, so no fault to Strange New Worlds. I just liked that episode for other reasons. That was the only one I didn't like out of all 10.
There's one jump scare in TNG Genesis.
Oh yeah,
where Barclay pops up and he's the spider.
the
guy.
spider.
That, I swear to God, I fucking jumped.
That was like some fly type looking shit, right? Like that was had to have been inspired by the yeah. Before he was in Star Trek, he was in Star Trek.
That was a very Cronenbergish episode, especially I remember what they did with Marina Sirtis and her transformation.
The frog.
In the bathtub. That freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah, that's a fun episode. It's a fun little haunted house type episode.
Worf sprays Beverly with the venom. She's like, ah, she's screaming. Like, I was like, oh my God,
Picard is like
fucked.
Picard's like extra scared going through all that because he's starting to turn into like a scared little chimp. Patrick Stewart plays everything like so. He goes like so hard into whatever he's trying to convey. Sometimes I crack up watching him, but yeah, like the way that he tries to play fear in that episode, like in the turbo lift when he's trying to get away from Worf. It was like, oh my God, he looks so fucking terrified. There's like scared little kid look on his face. Yeah, like
scary, man. When Worf goes after him, I'm like, oh my God, this is intense. It's a good episode. No, not a lot of people talk about that one.
Yeah, and it was directed by Gates McFadden. It was the only episode she directed, I believe. So that was cool that she got to direct one. PJ, let me ask you, like on Star Trek Day, I think we might get a Picard season 3 trailer. If not then probably by or on New York Comic Con in October. But what do you think about they might be like announcing like, season 3 of Strange New Worlds or season 5 of Lower Decks or something like that. But I think that at some point soon they're going to announce a new show. They've been teasing it for a long time. Alex Kurtzman keeps saying like, we have 2 shows in development. So we know Picard is going to come and go pretty, we're thinking probably like February. So within 6 months from now, Picard will be over. We'll be like, well, what's going to replace it? What are they going to add to the slate? Like,
it's like they'll only have 4 shows. What to do?
Yeah. So do you think that they're gonna, tell us, one of these shows has the green light and is starting production?
We have a viewer.
Yeah, and Joel.
Oh, Joel's here. How's
nice.
Joel?
I wonder if he's like getting off work or something. I know he works on Friday nights sometimes.
Well, the 2 right off the top of my head are Section 31, Starfleet Academy.
I think those are safe bets. And then the other one would be. Why am I blinking?
There is rumors of a spin-off of Picard.
Oh yeah, the Terry Matalas doing like a Seven and Raffi show. You notice like during San Diego,
it seems to me that maybe one of the ships. I mean, I heard the Titan, I heard the Enterprise. Whatever ships are going to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
What did they call it? What was the Gary 7? A backdoor pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I think a part of season 3 will be a backdoor pilot for something that will continue after it.
Terry Matalas teased that he's working on something. The thing at San Diego, Alex Kurtzman said that like these new shows there will be someone asked a question about like I really like seeing like a a woman in the lead of as the lead of a show. And Alex Kurtzman said, "Oh, well, you'll get that in the 2 shows that we have in development." So, a Giorgio Section 31 show, obviously, female lead. And if they did like Seven and Raffi or something like that, Kate Mulgrew keeps teasing like she might want to do something. So I don't think they would do like Star Trek Janeway, but I think she might be part of a a larger cast and something. Or if the Starfleet Academy spinoff is Tilly centric, which I'm skeptical on that, but a lot of people.
I don't think Discovery's getting a spinoff anytime soon. I would like to see something, but I mean the plate's pretty full on that, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
do fans want another 32nd Century show? Is that in demand?
To me, I'm less interested in that period, but with 5 shows out, I wouldn't mind seeing more, but I think it might be just to keep things different. It might be a good idea to do something there. But I think Discovery still has another year or 2 left in it, like I was saying earlier. So yeah, they might wait until Discovery finishes its run and then do something else there.
If I were magically in charge right now, like boom, you put me in there, I can make decisions from now on.
Sure, you're Alex Kurtzman now. What do you do?
Let's just say, and I watched Picard season 3. As it is now, not completely done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's assembled enough for me to get a picture. It's definitely assembled enough to cut a trailer. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah.
Because they're really taking their time with this one. And that's a good sign. And they're not counting their eggs before they hatch type of thing. And the hype is good. So I'm assuming I watch it and I like it. This formula of bringing back legacy characters can work so well if you just give them a good fucking story. That's all you need. And I know it's much easier. It's much easier said than done, obviously. Like, I'm no expert. I don't get paid for that stuff. But my plan would be, okay, who's out there that was in the old Trek? Nana Visitor, this one, Alexander Siddig, and you think of all of these actors you could bring back, and you just think of ways, how can we make a show where these guys are in it? And it's interesting, and it's relevant, and it's like not fucking some... It's, in a way, it's like, it's milking that nostalgia teat, but you gotta realize a lot of people are watching DS9 and Voyager coming up in the world saying, geez, I watched that all 7 seasons. I want more. I want to see what they're doing fucking 20, 30 years later. And just do something with that. I would milk... I know it sounds bad. I would milk the legacy characters, but only if there was a good reason to bring them into something. So if you had a spin-off of Picard, Jane, and it's in its proper timeline, the current... I call it the present Star Trek timeline, the one that coincides with ours that we grew up with type of thing.
Right. So the 25th century, basically.
The 25th century. So boom, you could invite anybody. You don't have to be there for a long time. But
right.
If I would think, okay, I have faith. I'm Alex Kurtzman. I have faith in Picard. Put it out there. It gets the best response. People love it. And even the naysayers. Can't win everybody, but it's just people love it, right? I would be like, I'm finding the quickest way to secure and announce the return of Voyager crew, the return of DS9 crew, in some way, shape, or fashion. Because that's a guaranteed win. Just the idea of it is a win. Who's going to argue with that?
Well, it'd be hard to branch off to like new audience members, but that's where you have the advantage of like 5 shows. I think that Strange New Worlds, is very new audience friendly. So, you know, if people hadn't watched any Star Trek, could probably jump into Strange New Worlds. Even there'd be like some weird things like, oh, why does Spock mention his sister? Or like, oh, why does Pike know his destiny? But like, it's pretty easy to explain that little stuff to someone.
And
So
you also have you know, like you said earlier, people have certain sections that they like. Say if you're only a modern Trek fan who's coming up in the world, and then you like, oh, these old people. Like it was me with the TOS crew.
mhm.
I found out that Star Trek was something that was going on before the show, and the first movie I saw was Six. I'm like, oh, it's about all these old guys in a ship. Like that was stood out like a sore thumb. Like they're very old. It's an interesting movie. I'm interested to know. And I think it was my dad or somebody's like, well, this is based on a show from the '60s. I was like, oh my god, the mystery continues. And then I was like, I didn't think William Shatner was the same guy. I was like, oh, the older dude was a different actor.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Because Leonard Nimoy, you could recognize him.
Shatner
Rose
looks so
Kelly.
different.
James Doohan threw me off too. I was like, is that the same guy? Because you see him in the original. So
Yeah,
him and Shatner,
he's
I
not
was
fat.
questioning.
He's not fat in the 60s. He doesn't have a mustache. What's going on?
But then I saw, what was the second thing I think it was Wrath of Khan or Search for Spock. It was one of those. But the very last ones I ever saw were 4 and 1.
One was the last I saw because the place where I rented movies as a kid, they didn't have it on VHS. So I didn't see the motion picture until shortly after Voyager was like already on TV. I'd watched like some of Voyager, like it was like Voyager like season 2 or season 3 when I finally tracked down the motion picture on VHS. So at the end when
That was a rare find, by the way. People don't know this, but the motion picture was
yeah.
not on TV. It was almost never on any TV that I ever saw. You could never. It was never in any video store. I saw it one video store. I only ever saw it once anywhere on
Yeah.
VHS.
But at the end when Kirk discovers the source of V'ger, that it was actually Voyager. He's like, Voyager. I was like, man, like that's weird that he's saying Voyager. That's like the name of a TV show now. So
I saw it in
it's
'99.
kind
So
of
yeah,
awkward.
Voyager was ending then. I think. Right?
Hmm. Yeah, Voyager ended in 2001,
Oh yeah, that's right.
right before the towers fell.
Yeah, it was so weird, and it's like I didn't appreciate TOS. I was like, okay. And then when I'm like, the movies are the show with a budget, so I like the movies. And I was like interested in those. And then, yeah. I saw part 4 in '98, I think. It was like late night, and somebody had it on VHS.
Mm.
I'd seen parts of it on TV. That was one they played on TV a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never catch it. It would always be like I'm like, I can't watch this. I got to see the whole thing.
That's my oldest memory of Star Trek is before I started watching Star Trek. But I remember I didn't even see Star Trek 4 on TV, but I remembered seeing like a promotion for like Star Trek 4. Like it was gonna come on TV like next week or something.
And they always show the very ending where the crew's on the ship and they're covered in water and the whale's going by. They always show that part.
It showed Kirk and Spock on the bus is one of the things that, and I didn't really like. I knew that Star Trek was a thing, but I was so little, like I knew like, oh, like these guys are supposed to be in space, but here's like the weird story of like them being on Earth in modern day. And I didn't really know more than that. And then the second thing of Star Trek I saw was the episode Conspiracy of the Next Generation. And I caught the episode like towards the end after a commercial break, but it was the part when Riker is at Starfleet headquarters and all the admirals there are all possessed by the conspiracy bugs, and they give Riker like this big plate of worms to eat, and all of these admirals are just like sitting around the table like eating these worms, and Riker is like, that's disgusting, I'm not gonna eat. I was like, whoa, like this show is crazy. Like they wanted this guy to eat worms with them. I didn't really know what was going on then either, but it left an impression.
That was playing on the TV. I remember my mother commenting like, what are you watching? And I was like, yeah, this is gross.
You know, what's Joel
Yeah,
saying? New
new
toupees
toupees
are a
very
good disguise.
disguised.
Yeah, yeah. The hair looks very different. It was more fair color. The toupee he had in the '60s was a more fair color than the one he started using in the motion picture was darker.
You know the fascinating thing about William Shatner is that from like 68, 69 to 19 fucking 92, let's say, he aged very badly, very rapidly. He
Yeah.
got bloated and old looking fast. More so than like a person nowadays kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then he stopped aging for 30 fucking years. He just stopped.
Well, he's also very rich these days. He got incredibly wealthy off of those Priceline commercials. You know,
Priceline.com, yeah.
when he started doing those, they Priceline was like a young company. They didn't have like a ton of money, so to get like this big celebrity actor doing their commercials, part of how they paid him was in Priceline stock, and then Priceline blew the fuck up as the internet. People were using like the internet to like book their trips and stuff. So Shatner made an incredible amount of money off of that. And yeah, he's very healthy at 91 years old. I saw him at Vegas a year ago. I'm about to see him again in 3 weeks. But he's very energetic. He was walking back and forth on the stage, just talking 90 miles a minute, just bursting with energy. But I'm
I've
like, yeah,
listened to
he's on
him.
them good drugs, them good rich people drugs you get.
I've listened to him on a couple of podcasts. And his stream of consciousness, like he can talk about anything, and he goes on and on. He's like Kevin Smith in that way.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, and and then like he'll get an idea in the middle of an idea. Type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I saw him in Chicago. Me and Sean and Sohel were sitting in the hall listening to him, and just like he was just going from like topic to topic to topic, just going. Like if you stopped listening for 5 minutes and started listening again, you're like, oh my god, why are we talking about this now? Like, how did we get from there to here? But yeah, I think he takes like the same drugs that Trump must take because he has like that Trump energy. You know how like sometimes Trump would be like real like low energy, but something like during like debates and stuff, he'd be just like bouncing off the walls or something. It's like when you're really rich, there's something like doctors inject you with to give
There's
you
a
like that energy boost.
there's a podcast, and I don't know, a lot of people don't have problems with this guy, but it's separate from his political stuff, his political show. But Bill Maher has a a podcast. What's it called? Club Random, and he has some interesting guests on there. Not all of them are, he had Mike Tyson and William Shatner and Lisa Kut, just random, really random kind of people, right? William Shatner was on there, and one of the stipulations, I guess, to be in the room with him is that they sit down on a couch. The cameras are hidden, so the cameras are not seen. It's meant to like relax the person, so like cameras aren't visible and shit. So it's kind of like a static shot of two of them, some close-ups and stuff. But Bill Maher, excuse me, Bill Maher is always smoking weed during it, and he's drinking alcohol and whatnot. And sometimes guests who don't imbibe, is that the word?
Partake.
They don't partake. You if you watch it long enough, you can see them getting a contact high because it's inevitable. There's just a cloud of weed around them. Sammy Hagar was one of them. Like, oh man, I don't talk, because he offers it to them. Like he gives them a pre-rolled thing if they want to partake. One of the things, very and it's really random, like the topics. But you will see like Sammy Hagar get a little more goofy and a little more high, even though he's not smoking. And William Shatner was the same way. I think he got a little more ranty toward the end. Because Bill's just smoking, and he's like, "Hey," he offered him something. He's like, "Oh no," he's really against. He's like, "I don't do it, and I don't need it, and it's not for me," and blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, just wait. He wasn't against it, but it's just weird. Michael Rosenbaum is a good guy too. I like listening to his podcast. He had Doug Jones on. I talked about that last week. Anyway.
Yeah, that sounded interesting. I should go check that out. I've listened to a few of the Rosenbaum, the Inside You podcast.
Quentin Tarantino has a podcast where he reviews old, weird, fucking like obscure movies. Some stinkers. Like the latest episode was Moonraker, Delirium, and Firefox.
Oh,
Like,
I bet that's great to listen to.
oh god, it's so
He
good.
loves that old stuff.
Him and his friend are just talking about old movies. Who's another one that's really good? Oh yeah, I only listen to one, but it's Light the Fuse podcast. It's a Mission Impossible podcast. It's the first podcast that Tom Cruise was ever on, and it's 2.5 hours, and they talk to almost everybody involved in the new Mission Impossible movies, like the director and Nick Offerman's there. He plays a role in the movie, and blah 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 blah. In the last bit of it, last half an hour, 40 minutes, Tom Cruise finally shows up. They actually say like, no, he's not coming because he's at Wimbledon or something. And I'm like, what the fuck? The whole they hype. The only reason I'm listening to this actual podcast is it's like the first one he's ever been on, and that's like a big deal apparently. Dude, I haven't people judge say what you will about him. Dude has like a stream of consciousness and just rambles about like he rambled about the movie industry and his experience as a young person, and it's like one thing into another. But by the end of it, you're like, man, I learned a whole bunch just then. You feel like you learned something about like ambition. Like he's a fucking ambitious dude, man. No fear. He's in the way he talks about making movies, and he's very passionate about like, I want to deliver for people. I want to make people like he's just so about that. Like he's very emphasizes like in camera action, what you can do. How do you formulate a good action movie that's interesting on top of the action? And even talked about like we had this amazing city location booked. They didn't name it but they were like, and it turned out like as time went on, the story didn't call for us just to go to the city to film this action scene. It didn't serve the story. So we had that same type of action scene, but set it where we were already going, or we already like where it made more sense. Like that's why those fucking movies are good. Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout are some of the best action movies of this century. For practicality and just precision and just like, I still have to see Top Gun Maverick because that's another movie too with such.
It'll be on Paramount
They literally
Plus.
did thousands of hours of footage to get what had to be cut into the movie.
It'll be on Paramount Plus soon, I think.
I want to take the highway to the danger zone.
I should watch more Mission Impossible. I stopped watching after the second one, and everyone's like, "That was the worst one of all of them." And I know that was like 23 years ago at this point. But yeah, I've only watched the first two. I've never gone past two.
The second one is just good for the stunts. The third one is the J.J. Abrams one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but when I watched it, I was like, okay, it's okay. But then I just can't go back to it. I was just like, Philip Seymour Hoffman is the villain, and he's pretty intense. But aside from that, it's not Chris McQuarrie, who's just like some kind of fucking genius when it comes to just action direction. And he's when Henry Cavill and Tom Cruise are filming the helicopter scenes, it was nerve-wracking enough for Henry Cavill, who is not doing it, who has to fake it. But for the director to look at Tom Cruise do all of his stunts by himself, you know, it's nerve-wracking. It actually turns your hair gray. It's fucking stressful as hell. And there's always that prospect that these dangerous stunts could result in disaster one day. But apparently these next two Mission Impossibles are that's it. And they're promising like at the end it's like delivers on the biggest action. Have you ever seen the trailer for the what's it called? Fuck, it's called Mission Impossible. Damn it.
I don't know anything about the
Mission Impossible.
the new one.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part
Dead Reckoning Part 1. And there are two parts. They filmed the first part and parts of the second one. But the trailer, just the sizzle reel for the second part, which doesn't give away anything about the plot, it just shows all action. It's like everything just looks so good.
But most of them, I think there's one missing from Paramount Plus, so I could sit down and watch the ones I haven't seen before, or at least most of them. Joel, I didn't watch Sandman yet, but I've heard good things about the first episode.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep watching, Joel, but there's a problem with the show. And a select few are noticing, and I guess other people are just like, oh, I guess this is the way it looks. It's presented in the wrong aspect ratio, which means that what they're showing on Netflix, apparently everywhere, is a squished kind of version. It's kind of like if you watch the old VHSs of foreign movies, like kung fu movies, when it would be pan and scan, right? But usually in those cases, the credits, they couldn't pan and scan credits, right? So they would either do widescreen in the 4:3, you know what I mean, during the credits, and then it would switch to full screen, or 4:3 pan and scan. But I find with foreign films, they used to squish the picture in to fit the 4:3, which made everybody look elongated.
Yeah,
And you have that with Sandman, but to a much lesser degree. But it's like, it's noticeable enough to be distracting.
I wonder why they did that. Why didn't they just use the original intended aspect ratio?
It's simply a mistake.
Oh,
And Joel, I pointed out earlier that the exact same thing happened with The Stand on Amazon Prime in Canada. No, I don't know of any complaints about the Paramount Plus version.
yeah. I didn't notice that when I watched it.
Is it not a widescreen show? Meaning, like it's pretty panoramic. You know, in a sense. It's like Strange New Worlds of Discovery, where it's that aspect ratio, right?
And they stretch it up and down to be 16:9.
The next one down, like, remember Discovery season 1?
Mm-hmm.
That aspect, it's like,
Okay.
it's like if they took the aspect ratio of Discovery season 2 and stretched it to season 1. That's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, that would bother me. I'm pretty sure I would notice that. Maybe not within one episode, but I promise. Like I tend to have like a good eye for that type of shit. Yeah, that would irritate me. I'm gonna have to wait for him to fix it before I watch it.
I thought it was a creative choice. I was like, oh, this is just
Kind of makes sense.
because
Yeah,
it starts off with a dream sequence type
right,
of thing, right?
right.
Like, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. Okay.
Yeah, give some surrealism to it. You know, that makes sense to do that creatively, but
Amazon Prime actually tends to have that problem with the occasional thing. Sometimes you will have like an older show that's in 4:3, but it's squished to 16:9. You can't change it. Sometimes there's an old sitcom that's actually cropped, like it's zoomed in and cropped to 4:3, and that's fully intentional. But they literally don't take the top and bottom into consideration at all, because you have shots where characters' heads are half cut off. And it's like, why make that choice to release an old show and just fuck with it like that? Just zoom it in and be done with it.
you know, that was the cool thing about Deep Space Nine, is everything that they shot in camera, they always shot it so that it would look good in both 4:3 and 16:9. So it is possible, theoretically. I don't know if this will ever happen. I don't think it will, but it is possible to go and like remaster all of DS9 into 16:9 format.
And with X-Files and other shows that were filmed on 35mm film, what you see on the screen in the 4:3, there's a slightly bigger surface area that you're not seeing to the left and the right, or the up and the down. It depends on how they frame it.
Right.
But sometimes if you see the original 35mm sometimes like they frame it a different way, slightly. You know what I mean? Like for the 4x3. But then you could take that same negative with the information more on the sides and frame it in a proper 16 by 9. X-Files did that well.
Do you know what was terrible was Buffy the Vampire Slayer? They did a Netflix release of that in 16 by 9, even though it was always intended to be 4 by 3. It aired on TV in 4 by 3, and the DVDs were released in 4 by 3. And even like, remember one of the DVD box sets, because I bought all 7 seasons on DVD, and one of them came with like this little letter from Joss Whedon saying like, yes, we understand some people want the show to be released on DVD in 16 by 9, but it was never ever intended to be viewed that way. And then when I watched the Netflix version, I understood why, because there are some shots in that show where you can see like the crew like on set like holding up boom mics and shit like that because they thought that was going to be cropped out for the broadcast version. And
Yeah.
on the Netflix version, they add all that 16 by 9 extra bits on the left and right back in, and it's like you see that shit and it's just like it's embarrassing, you know? It's like, oh man, like they really fucked this up. I think the show it's streaming on Hulu now because it's owned by Disney. Disney owns Buffy, the 20th Century Fox thing. But I think they've gone back to the 4 by, at least I hope they have gone back to the 4 by 3.
I think I said this at one point before when Baywatch was remastered. It's that same thing. They could do the 16 by 9 because it's like it's wide open. So like you don't have to worry too much about like the ends of sets like in TNG. That's why they couldn't do it 16 by 9 because you go a little to the left or the right. It's like the set's not even there.
Yeah, you see like rafters and shit.
Yeah. But one scene, an extra is waiting for his cue to walk by, I guess. But he's lingering on the side of the frame. And it's clearly like an extra waiting to walk by. And then somebody says a line, then he goes by. I'm like, in the 4 by 3, you wouldn't have seen him waiting there type of thing. Little things like that. Do you remember the Simpsons controversy on Disney Plus?
They converted that from 4 by 3 to 16 by 9. Aren't there like 2 different versions of it available or something?
You can choose now.
Okay. But you can't choose to watch the Michael Jackson episode. They've erased that from the universe, right?
Yes, they did. They're ignorant.
Yeah, he's been deleted from our universe. He's been sent to the
oh my god. Do you know Kyle Duggan? He's an impersonator.
I don't think so.
He does these little shorts where he imitates like Bill Maher, Ben Shapiro, Michael Jackson, Pete Davidson, and he does the deep fake face. He does Sylvester Stallone and Jeff Goldblum, and he's really fun. He's a really good impressionist.
I saw the George Lucas one, I think.
He does George Lucas as well, yeah.
Yeah, really okay. Good. Yeah, I saw like some deep fake of George Lucas, like complaining about like modern Star Wars or something.
But the thing with The Simpsons was that when they cropped it to 16 by 9, in some cases you were visually erasing jokes. Like with the way it was framed, sometimes the full frame was essential for the joke to work. And I remember when they had it on TV in 16 by 9, some of the shots would have to be stretched to accommodate something because it was too zoomed in or something like that. Just every now and again it would be a stretched image. I'm like, this is a horrible way to present The Simpsons. And then they changed. There was a protest for like a year. People were like, change it. God damn it. Disney was like, we're working on it. I'm like, really? It was a process apparently.
Yeah, I know like Babylon 5 had that was another show I bought every season on DVD. And they had always intended it to be 4 by 3, but for the DVD they went with 16 by 9. And that was hard to do because all the space shots in Babylon 5, they're all CGI. It was one of the first shows to go to CGI, and they couldn't afford to make models. Yeah. So all of those CGI effects, they either had to be cropped or stretched or some combination of the two, and they don't look great. When they released the show on HBO Max, they restored everything back to the original 4 by 3.
Yeah, that's if it's meant to be seen that way, keep it
Right.
that way.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. I don't like when they meddle with shit like that.
The there are versions of TOS that are 16:9 cropped, but not in the good way. They're literally just the cropped of the print. They're not like going back to the negative and reframing it. It's just a crop of the actual episode, and that used to be on TV for a bit, and it's remastered. But here's the interesting thing about the Cage: the Crave version of it has all of the visual effects in 16:9, and
Hmm.
that shot in the beginning of the Cage where it zooms into the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is 16:9, and as soon as it goes from that CG 2 second CG creation of the bridge where like people look like animated for a second, and
Mm-hmm.
it fades into the 4:3, and then every exterior shot is just 16:9, and then every other shot is.
Weird. That would be so jarring. I feel like I'd get whiplash from watching that. Like, 16
and
by 9, then 4:3, then 16 by 9.
and then the Netflix version in Canada is the original unaltered version. So I like I have access to two. I haven't watched the Paramount Plus version of it yet, but
They should put the original special effects on Paramount Plus because I have those on Blu-ray. Like that's one thing that I really respect about the Star Trek Blu-ray releases is they've always put out the original special effects for the original series on everything that has had the remastered versions, but it's never been on any of the streaming here in the United States. So I think they should give you the choice. You should be able to pick if you want to watch remastered or original. Because
I
I'm at the
agree. Yeah,
point. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I've rewatched Star Trek a lot and I've rewatched the original series a lot. It's the show I've seen the most or second most. I watched DS9 a little bit more than the others too, but I have now watched the remastered effects, I think, more than the originals, and that feels wrong to me. Like I need to go back and start watching the original, but it's so easy to just hit it on streaming and not like pull out my fucking dusty old Blu-ray box set.
you forget how scratched up and when I watched that, I mean, and what I have access to on streaming is just that one episode with the unaltered. It's not updated like that Cage episode, and to see the original effects, you're like, not bad. Not bad at all. Because I did one time, I did watch the remastered, and then the original. I was like, oh no no, this is what I did. I remember. I'm gonna sound weird, but I was watching the Netflix version on my TV, and I synced it up with the Crave version on my phone,
Hmm.
like perfectly, and it fucking worked out. It was like even the timing and everything was right. I think I'm pretty sure. But I remember I didn't do it the whole time, but I remember just doing this thing where I'm looking at both effects, just to actually have the. You can look it up on YouTube anyway, but
Yeah,
I
so
really
someone
thought
did
that.
that with the Strange New Worlds finale. They had like a side by side on YouTube of a Quality of Mercy and then Balance of Terror, like
I
some of those
I had
scenes.
Balance of Terror on my phone, looking like skimming through while I was watching the finale and on the rerun, which I
Mm.
don't, it's not my favorite episode or anything, but I was just seeing like what dialogue matched up. But yeah, somebody did put that together, so
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I was a little mixed on that episode too, but it ultimately won me over after I watched it a couple times. But
they
you
say
you
season
do
two is going to be on steroids. By the way, that's what they say.
I'm I didn't really take to Paul Wesley as Kirk in that episode, but everything that they've said after that, it kind of makes me much more open to like hearing him talk about Kirk at San Diego. Like he clearly understands the character. They were saying like, yeah, he's gonna be pretty different in season 2, and they're not like reacting to like the negative opinions on him and a Quality of Mercy, because I know like a lot of these interviews were written before that episode even came out. So like the Cinema Blend one for sure, I know for a fact because I know the guy who interviewed him. I know the interview took place before that episode was even aired, so or released. I guess I should say it's not aired on a TV channel these days. So
So Pike can't meet him though. right?
He's not supposed to meet him until he's promoted to fleet captain. So the question is, when does Pike get promoted to fleet? Because what the fuck is even a fleet captain? That's something that was only brought up in Star Trek in the Menagerie. They've never said fleet captain at
And when
any
you're a fleet captain, are you
any
still
other
on your
point.
own ship or what? Or was it,
Who knows? Like, it's not like a yes. They could do whatever they want with that. Like, it's a weird. Star Trek normally just uses like whatever the Navy, whatever ranks the Navy have. That was like early season 1 TOS. They hadn't, I guess, figured all that out yet. It was weird. Like, he should have just been like a commodore or an admiral or something, but one of their fleet captain. That always bugged me as a kid too. I was like, what the fuck is a fleet? Why isn't anyone else ever a fleet captain? I didn't like that, but yeah, I mean, I think that they'll stick with that. He's definitely going to meet Spock. But yeah, I think he's going to be on the Farragut for most of. It sounds like he's going to be in more than one episode. I think we'll see a lot of Kirk in season 2, which I kind of wish they wouldn't just go ahead and run straight into Kirk. But that's what they're going to be on the Farragut. So it'd be easy to keep him and Pike from being in the same room if they want to do that.
Ugh. I don't know. I hope it's good. I'm focused on Picard season 3. I want to live long enough to see it.
I think Strange New World season 2 will be a lot like Strange New World season 1. I know that they said like they're going to be like bigger, more ambitious, but yeah, I think it's going to be like the same. I feel like they made the show they wanted to make in season 1, if that makes sense. Like they didn't really need like a couple years to figure like, okay, we know what we want to do and we did it. So similar with like Lower Decks, same thing. So season 2, I think season 3 will be pretty similar to seasons 1 and 2 of that show. Discovery and Picard, they kind of had to try a few different things before they really started hitting their stride. So,
well, here's hoping for the future of Star Trek.
But yeah, I'm with you on like hoping for good things in season 3 of Picard, but I'm not as, like I said, like I still have like a room for doubt. Like I remember how much everyone loved those first few episodes of Picard season 2. People were just fucking thrilled, especially after like those first 2 episodes. And then, like halfway through the season, people turned on Picard really fast, and I can understand why. But I'm gonna always in the back of my head be wondering, like, is that gonna happen with Picard season 3? I'm gonna be wondering that all the way until the very end.
Yep. Didn't Terry Matalas kind of frig off after 3 episodes and focus primarily on 3?
Season? Yeah.
And I didn't know this at the time, but apparently Akiva Goldsman was responsible for the part that people were pissed off about. I mean, I don't know. I don't like what the whole Picard and his mother thing and him having this memory that he's never told. And is it a suppressed memory? Did he forget? Or it's so weird. And then Q, it's like, what? And then Guinan, it's like, what are you doing with Guinan? I'm just whining now. I'm just like, oh, Picard season 2. I'm such a little bitchy fanboy. But yeah, it didn't do it for me.
I mean, there's a lot of people who feel that way. I actually, like I said, like a lot of like the big stuff I was okay with, but I had some issues with the execution.
I can't even articulate. It's just, I didn't like it. No, it's you're gonna do time travel. Just don't do anything. Like, just okay. I'll tell you one of the parts in the season that drove me mad. When Picard is like, "Oh, those bullet holes, those were meant to be there." I'm like, what? This is the right time. We're on the right path. The bullet holes, and I'm like, no, stop. I was so impatient toward the end. I was getting. You should see our discussions with Ruben and Braxton. Me and Ruben are just vicious. So vicious. It my thoughts on the season are a suppressed memory in itself.
Well, there you go. You found a way to win.
But I don't know. It's Dan Murrell. I mentioned does a really coherent, you know, almost like coldly logical review of the season and calls it irresponsible.
Hmm.
It's just like downright negligent.
I
For like
liked
the not, you know.
I liked Jussie Gender had a pretty good video on it because she had some big criticisms of the show, and definitely like complained about a lot of stuff in it. But she pointed out like a few of the things that I thought were like pretty strong, and a lot of it was a lot of the. I think there was a lot of like well-intended stuff in there, but yeah, the Terry Metalis episodes undoubtedly were stronger than the Akiva Goldsman stuff in the second half of the season. So
I thought
yeah,
the
I'm
first episode was so good and it was so promising, and the payoff for it, like the
mhm.
how it resolves in the last episode, was such a kick in the balls.
Yeah, but I liked in that last episode. I was like, oh, like we're back in the future, and like there's spaceships in space. It was weird after spending so much time in the 21st century. I was like, oh wow, it feels like I'm watching Star Trek again.
Yeah, it's like finally we're doing spaceship stuff.
Yeah, same thing with Disco season 4. I think they had just drugged their feet too much, but I mean, I liked the guidance stuff. I liked Q. I liked his final moment with Picard. So I mean, at the end of the day, like I didn't hate it, but I definitely have my complaints with the
Even in the
season.
midst of it all, when he's like, "You matter to me," I was like, "Oh fuck, you got me."
Yeah,
This is dumb, but I'm feeling it.
yeah, it's hard not to enjoy the performances there in the heat of the moment when you're watching it. Yeah, like the
And when
Laris
he
and
right before he
Talon
sends them
stuff.
off and stuff, that was nice. Yeah,
Like, are they gonna bring that up in season? Is that really like I'm just supposed to believe like that's just her Romulan ancestor who coincidentally was watching over Picard's
like
ancestor?
that was just it. A lot of the second season suffered from what I call the Back to the Future formula. This idea of casting the same actors playing their own ancestors who look just like them is a comedic thing from that movie that this show is taking seriously, and it's just so off-putting. I get it, like it's a thing now with Brent Spiner playing
Yeah.
some relative of another character. It's okay, cool, but then you have Issa Briones there, and
Well, she's an artificial being too, so I think that one makes a lot of sense. The weird one to me is
that made
Laris.
more sense than what's her name, Talon.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
The Laris Talon one, like that, I kept waiting. I was like, surely they're gonna have a better explanation for this, and then like they never did. And I was like, well, maybe season 3 will explain it. But now, the more I've thought about it, I was like, no, I think that yeah, I'm just supposed to believe that's her ancestor, I guess. So that kind of sucks. Well, what about Worf, Colonel Worf, in the Undiscovered Country? That was the
Different
same thing,
ridges,
right?
you know, you can do different ridges and stuff. You can make
Yeah.
them look different enough. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want you to get crushed if season 3 doesn't live up to your expectations, PJ. So I would recommend going in with a little tempered expectations.
Well, not really. It just needs to be the best thing ever made. That's all.
Yeah, if it's as good as like a typical, I don't know, season 7 TNG episode, that'd be fine. I don't really like season 7 of TNG, but I'm sure I'll probably have a similar reaction as the first 2 seasons of Picard. I'll probably be like, oh yeah, there's some stuff I really like. There's some stuff I want to nitpick, but
I want to hear one of the Beverly, Geordi, Worf, whoever the hell, drop the famous Picard F bomb, because Picard has F bombs in it more than
uh-huh.
other Trek shows, and I don't think they should shy away from that. I just think sometimes it's
Who should say it?
like when Agnes is to a point where she's like fucking this and fucking that, and then Rios is like fucking holograms. I'm like, okay, you You guys are. It's like you're trying to be. You're like me like last Friday, just trying to be cool by using it too much. Uh, but yeah, I want to hear Beverly say like, "Get the fuck up, John Luke," or something. You know, where you had. I didn't like Picard's line in season 1. Where it was like, "You pissed me off." I'm like, "Oh, that's it. It's supposed to be edgy, but it fell flat." But when Picard says to Q in the second season, "I'm so tired of your bullshit," I was like, "That's when you use the profanity effect, because I still like to believe that in that time it's not used so liberally. Like people are just, I always look at it like this, like when Kirk and Spock go back and they're like, it's a profanity laced society. To me, it was never saying that we don't swear in the 23rd century, because they do in the fucking movies. They say bastard and this and that, right? It's just that people don't really have that many reasons to. Nobody's, in New York City in the 80s, somebody probably has reason to say fuck 1,000 times in a day. But when you're living a life of relative luxury and comfort, and you're grounded, you're not gonna. It'd be weird to have somebody on the bridge of a ship in a modern Trek show F this and F that. There's a weird moment in season 2 of Discovery. All right, this is a conspiracy theory now. Stick with me. It's a Tilly moment where she's enthusiastic. She's coming on the bridge. Saru and Pike are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says frickin'. And Saru's like, and they react like she said a really bad word. And I'm like, that's weird. And Saru's like, watch your language. And I think she says it again or something. And Pike's like, oh. I think the original line was fucking. Like she says the F word again. And that's why forgive me, I don't know what episode and what moment it is.
I think that's the church. I think that's the.
It's at the point in season 2 where Saru is losing his patience with Tilly or something. And then she
New Eden. I think it's in New Eden.
Might be.
No, but I know the moment you're talking about.
No. In New Eden, she has an accident. No, it's a different one. It might have been the first episode. I can't remember. But then she approaches Pike and Saru, and she's like something. She says "frickin'," and they react like she said something a lot worse. Like how more so than how Stamets reacted to her when she said the F word in the first season.
Well, I know in the first season
they changed that. They dubbed it over.
They recorded a version of in season 1 of, instead of her saying like this is so fucking cool, they recorded a version of her saying this is so freaking cool because, or no, she didn't say frick. She just said this is so cool because they used that in one of the promos. I remember that. But then when I watched the show, she was like, this is so fucking cool. But I was always fine with them using that in there. It didn't really bother me. And I assume, yeah, some people will still say fuck in the 24th. Like they say fuck on Lower Decks all the time. It's just kind of bleeped out. But yeah, I think some people still use these words. It's just like, yeah, we just don't see them when they're saying it.
There's a lot of people who maintain that they don't actually say the curses on Lower Decks. And my philosophy is, why not? Why not have at some point a lucrative opportunity where you can milk the fans on a special uncensored fucking thing of Lower Decks, because apparently you can't get it uncensored.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like what we were talking about, like with like the 4x3 or the 16x9 or whatever. Like they write a lot of those jokes knowing that they'll be bleeped. Like I think that's part of the humor. You watch like Veritas and they bleep words that like aren't even like they bleep the word Romulan at one point, and it's like, why did you bleep Romulan? It's just sometimes I think, yeah, they're saying things like like fuck or bullshit. She said bullshit to Q too. She's like, Q, we don't have time for your Q bullshit. It's clear. Okay, Tawny Newsome was in the recording booth. She clearly said bullshit. But I think sometimes, yeah, they do like, okay, just like say something goofy here and we'll bleep it out because then it'll be funny, when people have to use their imagination to try to be, what fucking curse word would you use right there at that moment?
I think that's a big missed opportunity. There's one in particular in the first season where Ransom is talking about the filters in the holodeck,
Yeah.
and he goes the bleep bleep and the bleep bleep, and you're like, I want to know what he fucking said. The spunk and the spunk filters, just I don't know, some has to do with bodily fluids
Yeah.
after a sex act, and you know that I mean that's the joke. I suppose that's the funny part. But damn, if you
Right.
don't know, you don't want to know what he said. It would be a whole different show, wouldn't it? If you somehow they're like, okay, we're gonna release an option, because there used to be an option on there was a Family Guy movie, not a real one, but a straight to DVD, the Story of Stewie or something. It was like a 3-part
Oh yeah, I remember that.
that they put into the movie, and the disc. I remember we watched it at a friend's house, and I remember being pissed. I said, fuck you, it's like a DVD and they're still bleeping everything.
But
And
yeah, I
we
think that's
found
just a
we
creative
found
choice.
no, but we found out after the fact that in the audio
Yeah,
options you can listen to the uncensored. So yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that would be great for Lower Decks. It'd be such a completely different experience. It's a profanity laced show, and if that's the case.
Yeah, but I like the bleeps because I think they're funny. I think they add a level of humor.
There's a show called Blackish. It's off the air now. It lasted 6 or 7. I don't know.
Yeah, I know about that. I've never watched it, but I've heard of it.
It is a show where they curse. They say shit and fuck sometimes. Now, they actually blur their mouths on top of the bleeping, so I'm pretty sure on set they've said it. Because there's a show, a spin-off of it called Grownish, which I've only seen a few episodes of, about the daughter. And it's not, I don't think it's as good as Blackish, so I didn't really continue watching it. But the few episodes I watched, I'm like, they're cursing and it's not bleeped because it was a streaming show. So it's like, but it's in line with the show Blackish because they have that kind of casual cursing every now and again in the show. Except I think in the Grownish they will bleep fuck or something, but like shit or like asshole and stuff like that. It's like what the Orville is now. The Orville has cursing in it, but they don't say fuck. They say shit or asshole or, it's PG-13 kind of shit. But people say motherfucker and Blackish, and you're like, God damn it, I want to hear that. I want their version to be on streaming at some point because why would they blur the mouths? Because they're making the mouth movement of the actual swear word, so that's cool. I like shows that it's like future proofing it because at some point nobody's gonna care. The Trailer Park Boys is a show that was bleeped on TV, and for some reason they just said fuck it. Same thing with South Park. South Park for the longest time everything was bleeped, and then at one point in the mid 2000s they were just like nope. And then it was like, oh my god, this is it's like a different show. It's so vulgar.
But I know, like, even on South Park, like back when they did have the bleeps, I know like there was one episode where we see Ike in his kindergarten class, and like a lot of the kindergartners, they would always bring in like little kids, like 3 or 4-year-olds to voice Ike or like the other kindergartners. They kept having to like replace the actors because they would get out of like that cute sounding age that they were always looking for. But there's like one episode where like they kept saying like a bunch of curse words. And I used to buy the DVDs of South Park every year, and they had like the little mini commentaries where Trey and Matt would only talk about each episode for about like 5 minutes, and then they'd move on to the next episode. They didn't want to like sit through and do a commentary on the whole thing. They spoke a little bit about each episode. And on that one, they were saying like people got so mad at us when we did this episode because they were like, "How would you let like these little kids like say all these curse words?" And they said like,
and they didn't say the curse words,
right? Like under the bleep, they're actually saying like similar words, and they just bleeped it in a way where you fill in the blank mentally, and you think that they said the curse word.
I've been watching it randomly on Paramount Plus, and I think it's the first season or two. All the bleeps are built in. Like there's a lot of it where it's like, I think maybe it could be only season 1, but there's a portion of that show where it's always going to be bleeped because it was like I guess Lower Decks where as part of the comedy. Like they didn't really say things.
That first
then-
episode, Cartman gets an anal probe.
That's uncensored.
Yeah, I remember. Like, there's some like Cartman goes on a rant to the aliens or something, and wasn't there like he says like
One long bleep. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
bleep.
Yeah, and I think like there's nothing there under there.
It could, yeah, I don't know if the very first, like, the actually crudely animated with actual cardboard. I don't know
Oh,
about
that Christmas thing that they did.
There's a couple. There's a couple of like crude pilot. One's a Christmas one, and one's about Santa and Jesus fighting. And then there's the actual pilot of the TV show, which is what is actually the first episode, but it has the crudest animation because it's the one episode of South Park that's actually animated with cardboard cutouts.
Right before they went
And
to the computer.
the computer was like, it saves us a lot of time. It's like, anyway, but yeah, that show. I think it's then when you get into the second season and on, it's just all uncensored, except for that part you're talking about when it's like little kids, and you're thinking, hey, this is supposed to be the uncensored version. And it's like, oh, I guess they didn't say that. So I didn't know that, but I assumed it might be something like that.
Yeah. And I remember even like Trey Parker or Matt Stone talking about that, like like some things still had to be bleeped on Comedy Central, but then like when it would be streaming or when it would be on DVD, they would have it unbleeped. But I think even like comedy, like doesn't nowadays like you can say fuck on Comedy Central now. I think they've loosened up on a lot of that stuff.
After a certain hour.
Okay.
When I used to watch, I watched a season of South Park on. It used to come on Comedy Central, not Comedy Central. Is it Comedy Central? No, the Comedy Network. Then that dissolved into something else, and it was on Much Music. And for some reason, they went back to the bleeped episodes again, which for the longest time they didn't. They unbleeped it. And then I caught the rerun later that, like in 2:30 in the morning or something. And it was unbleeped. And when I had a PVR back then, I was like, fuck it, I'll just record the later version of it. Because they censored at, so I guess, a certain hour. Which is like 9:30 for me, but maybe it's 8 o'clock Eastern, so and even earlier Pacific, but that's a different, they broadcast at different times, but anyway. I think it's come to its a logical conclusion.
Yeah, well, it's 2:47. I do like 47. So on our runtime, we went 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Well, it's going to be a little above that. But yeah,
Well,
I'm going to say
okay.
goodbye. Good night. Good night, folks. Thanks
Bye.
for joining us, Joel.